The notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are listed in the annual agenda. Copies are sent to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press and posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. The notice of the special budget meeting resolution 24-65 has been sent to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley News. Has been posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and the borough website. Okay, so the first order of business is public comments. Citizens are welcome to address the mayor and council on any governmental item of concern to them, whether or not it is scheduled on the agenda below. Citizens must give their names and addresses when recognized to speak. Large groups are urged to select someone to represent them. The public is advised that these meetings are recorded and are subject to the Open Public Records Act. Just for anyone here from the library board, you're obviously welcome to speak right now, but don't feel obligated to. You'll be able to speak during the whole discussion of the library budget, okay? So is there anybody who wants to speak before we get started? No, okay. All right, so the first budget item today is the library, so if everyone can turn to the library page. All right, so typically with this process, you run the library. Yay, thank you. Okay, continue to do a great job. Why don't you give us a little narrative, and tell us what's going on and what you'd like to say, and if anyone else wants to join in, and then we'll start and we'll second go to questions from the council.
Actually, before we go, I apologize. This is the first thing, Joey. Just super quick, just two things. One, just a huge thank you to everybody. Thank everyone for coming from the library. Thank David, Susan, and the entire finance team. I will tell you, going through this budget, it feels a world different than it was the year before and a year before that. So first is just awesome. The second one, and I'd love to hope my fellow council people agree on this, we are coming up on our 130th anniversary of this town. And I believe the digital version of our backbreaking book, this is the first time we've ever done this. I would propose we never see this many crickets die ever again. So if we could ask, and I need approval from my fellow council people, but we don't need this book anymore. It's just crazy. Yeah. So online is awesome.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
A man in my office did scan this and put it in Dropbox.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I downloaded mine last night. So
Me too.
If we give that a try and look at it, and if you get comfortable with that, it gives you easily use the tabs, then that helps.
That'd be awesome. So let's do that, and that saves money, right? Okay, thank you. I apologize. I'm pretty sure we're going.
Okay, so I'm going to do something a little bit different this year because we have 2 new council members and we have a new borough administrator. And so you might not be as familiar with how the library works. So this is your very first Tenafly budget hearing. And it's good to start with the library because we're pretty easy. Our budget is actually fixed by New Jersey state law. But I want to start by introducing our board of trustees, who you might not know. We're a little bit different from other borough departments because we have the board of trustees is the governing body of the library, and they're appointed by Mayor Zinno, who's actually, Mark is one of the board of trustees. And when he can't make it to the meetings, we have Nicole Motz, who she comes to the meetings and votes as he would vote. And we have our board president, Martin Gilbert.
They go from that.
Our vice president, Kathleen Cook. Our secretary treasurer, Sun Jung. And we have Teresa Austin, Elizabeth Worms, and I've already introduced Nicole Motz. And we don't have here Julie Lev. And you might already know our newest board member, Yelena Mitis, she was on the board of education. She used to be on the board of education. Now she's on the library board. And We also have David C. Gregorio, who you might know as the Tenafly High School librarian. He represents the superintendent of schools. So, did I miss anyone? Oh, and then we have our Tenafly Library Friends here. The Tenafly Library Friends, they're an organization that supports the library. They sponsor some of our programs. And we have our president, Marilyn Friedman, over there, and our treasurer, Sally Lee. So how the library budget works is every October that the number comes out, it's the equalized valuation of all accessible property in town. So when that number comes out, for every $1,000, the library gets 33 cents. And that's the number, that's our budget. And you know, so I can't come here and say, oh, well, I need more money for this and I need more. That's the number. Of course, you know, if you want to give us more, we'll take it. But that's how our budget works. So when I come here, you know, I'd like to talk to you about what we're doing with that money and how we're striving to give Tenafly the library it deserves. And I live in Tenafly. Most of the board lives in Tenafly. And the fun thing about living in Tenafly is that people actually do read. You know, everyone says, who reads books anymore? Well, the kids in Tenafly really do read books. You know, when you look at, I have this chart here that shows how circulation of children's books, and these are books, these are not like STEM kits and video games, these are actual books. And circulation of books has gone up almost 17% since 2019, which is the last year before the pandemic. And, you know, and not only are the kids coming in to check out books, but they're actually hanging out in the library, coming to programs. And in fact, recently we opened up registration for a kids paint class. And so the paint class opened up registration on February 8th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And by 9:03, the class was full. And every March, yeah, exactly. It's like a Taylor Swift concert. And last year, so every March on a Saturday, this year it's March 16th, we have New Jersey Makers Day. And it's all the libraries in New Jersey, they all do it. It's a STEM, it's STEM activities for the whole family, and we have events at every level. And last year when we opened it up to registration, and we had registration for all the individual events, and it was completely booked in 1 hour. So this year we're trying to do it without registration because we had so many unhappy people who didn't get in. So except for the teen programs, because we need to know the material, how much, you know, we need a certain amount of materials for them. But we'll see how that goes on March 16th without registration. But that's the point, is people really do use the library and really love the library. And they hang out there. If you've ever been to the library after school, you've seen the kids. There are a lot of them. They walk over after high school and middle school and high school are both within walking distance. They read and they do their homework and they like to play with. We have I like to bring toys to the budget hearings, just so you know. And we have open STEM play in the children's room. And this, for example, is our coding mouse. So this helps with rudimentary coding skills for the younger kids. There's a maze that we put out, and you have to code the mouse properly so that it corresponds to the coding in the maze, so that the mouse can get to the keys. And the kids love it. Its eyes are supposed to light up, but I'm not coding it properly, so it's not working. But anyway, you got the point. And we also have our Tenafly library friends sponsor wonderful concerts. And I know that some of you have been there. If you're there on a Sunday for those concerts, you see how they're packed. They also sponsor our museum passes. So you can come and you can check out a museum to get into, let's say, MoMA for free or the Intrepid. And that's also very popular. They're bringing art and culture into the community. So that's really what the library does, is we're providing, we're not just this center for, you know, where people go for information and recreation. We're also the center of the community.
Questions from council members?
I guess I'll start with that. First, thank you for what you do. Obviously, incredibly meaningful. I've had 3 kids go through the public school, so I know the value of the library. Just curious here, does it suggest that 91,000 children's books were taken out last year?
Yes, yes.
Wow. And the other question I have, and obviously you're not asking for anything in terms of excess of what you received at a state mandated level. Do you generate income for yourself? And is that a separate, pocket of how you guys operate and have available funds for other things?
Yes, the Tenafly Library Friends, for example, raise money on behalf of the library. And so they'll sponsor some of our programs. And on occasion, people will, like we have had in the past, people give us money for certain things. Like, for example, this is a $2,000 for books on women's studies, things like that.
Outside of donations for the sake of generally, my kids have been donated numerous times. I don't know what late charges are, but I've been.
Yes.
Sure, wonderful to do. How does that get captured within your overall budget, if at all? And is it a meaningful source of revenue for you, just in terms of the way you guys can generate fees based on operating activities?
It's basically, the amount of money that we generate from fines is a minuscule amount. And it goes into like petty operations of the library, like buying coffee cups and, paper goods and whatever. Because it's really not a major source.
There are no other meaningful sources of revenue.
No. We have had in the past, there have been some significant inheritances from the librarian, not librarians, but from people who love the library. Like, I don't know if you know the area that we call the art gallery, where the piano is. That addition was put on years ago because some woman, Edna Polutsky, left the library, a few tens of thousands of dollars to do that, 500,000 to do that. So, every once in a while, it's very nice to do it, but basically the 1/3 of a mill is what we operate on and what we plan on. And some people keep saying, oh, well, the 1/3 of a mill is higher now. You're getting more money than you ever got. Well, the 1/3 of the mill is based on the evaluation of all the properties in town. And as you all know, in town, everything is being knocked down that's older and affordable. And $1 million homes are going up on the space, and they're paying higher taxes. So that increases the 1/3 of the mill. Now, I've lived here 54 years, and I'm very upset seeing big houses on small pieces of property with no longer having any trees or anything. And historic homes being thrown down. But this is what's increasing our yearly budget.
Julie, you have a question?
Yeah, this could be more of a question for Susan. I know that Joe Rossi retired. He was doing the weekly maintenance at the library. So we have somebody who's doing that, because that says here it's also a vacancy. I know that we do have a weekly maintenance. So
right now, you know, two individuals who'd like me to go there that are part-time, not, they're not full-time staff, but they are part-time to the, library. But when Joe Rossi gets replaced.
That's gonna be in his duties.
Yeah, he will have to oversee the maintenance of that though.
Okay, so he hasn't been replaced
No.
at this point, gotcha.
Yeah, that's one of the positions that's open and we're trying to recruit candidates.
There's a budget line that.
Budget,
Well,
Right,
it's,
budget for that,
they
right,
do
yeah.
get charged for the maintenance.
yeah, I just. I was
reallocated
making
it
sure
back.
It was, addressed, and I was just on a personal anecdote. When I've been by the library different times, I've actually seen people go to get those museum passes. They're very popular. People going to the city, it's a great deal to like get the free museum pass. But yeah, thank you for all your work. Thanks to the board. Thanks to the Friends of the Library. Appreciate it.
Okay, Julie, could I just ask a quick, how many square feet is the library? Do you happen to know off the top of your head, anyone?
It's over 14,000.
It's over 14,000.
Which of them make you think of?
No, I just on a whole different, I just
Oh,
wanted to,
gotcha.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So I was trying to look through, so it's awesome. I'm seeking to understand. So, you know, 80% of the budget goes to people and building insurance and stuff that Susan tells me are acronyms that I don't understand. That's cool. So about 10% of it goes to books and publications, which I would say are books and I assume all the videos and whatever. Are there other parts that, like I know we have a whole bunch of computers and like, do we upgrade those and where is that in the budget?
So the computers are actually on a maintenance schedule with Buckles. So Buckles is just so you know, they're the consortium that we belong to a larger library consortium. And they our like cataloging system, we pay them, they provide that to us, and they actually upgrade our computers. It's like every 2 years, but we have.
Do you know where that sits? Is that
Yes.
within data processing or office equipment
Yes,
or computer services?
Because we have a line, I believe it is data.
My point is, I want more stuff.
Data processing equipment.
That's the biggest one. That's about 70,000.
Yes, that
Is that where we get the computers for the kids?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. And then the only other one, and I know it's a much bigger conversation that we'll talk about capital. I do think we as a council have to take another look. We started last year at a whole new municipal complex where I would imagine a library being. So we have capital for the first time at the end of this meeting today, and we have another in a couple of days. But I'll be bringing up, I think there are 3 or 4 major pieces that we have to look at, and at some point we have to build. I believe a municipal center. We have to decide if we want some sort of community or rec center. We have to decide if we want to upgrade our senior center. So we should be talking about that, but that's obviously your voice is important because I would imagine the library living in that municipal center.
So just to follow up on that particular comment. So the library is 15,000 square feet. So let's just call it 15,000. Which means it would cost about $7.5 million to build a new library, right? About at $500 a square foot. Which means between the amount of money everyone together has spent on repairing the outside walls and this
Just wasting money.
we just wasted about, what was it, 5%.
And I don't want to do that anymore.
Correct. So we spent 5% of what it would cost to, well, 5% might not sound like a lot. You know,
We're gonna end up doing that every single year until we just completely.
Something to think about.
Is the 30 mils only applicable to operating expenses or can someone be the CapEx?
Ask that question again, what?
Numbers operate.
Yeah, so the follow-up question is, could any of the funding from the 1/3 of the mill be put towards, the future?
Or the surplus of
Or
historic.
surplus? If we were to build a new building and you had that portion of the debt service, is directly attributable to the library.
I don't believe that's allowed.
Good, Susan, yeah.
So, so everybody understands it's state mandated, then they get their third of the bill. But at the end of our reserve year, which is, our budget is a 2-year budget cycle. So right now we're in the 2024 budget, but the 2023 budget is our reserve year. So in the end of this year, we turn over any remaining funds to the library that have been raised through taxation, which is part of their 1/3 of the bill. But I have a question. Because the borough is under such tight constraints with their budget caps and their tax levy caps, is there a way that the borough can appeal maybe to the state librarian if you have a surplus in that reserve year that we could get some of those funds back as long as the trustees agree and the state librarian agrees? Because I
The
swear,
rule is if it exceeds 20% of the previous year's operating expenses. Yes,
if it exceeds 20%,
of the previous year's operating expenses. That's the law. But I mean, that money, it goes in our capital budget, and that's what we're going to use to fix everything that needs to be fixed within the library. And I know you're talking about building a new library, but you know, we don't know that.
How big
that's
is that capital budget, roughly?
Right, it's about $600,000.
that's from the funds we've been given, right?
Well, not that you've been giving, it's the funds that we're not spending.
Well, no, I mean,
It's
the funds that the borough has been turning
What
over
they've
to
accumulated.
It's
the
what
library.
we've accumulated because we were not spending our entire
Right.
budget every year.
Previously, they used to spend it down, and we then decided that we would turn it over because we had to.
Because you have to.
Yeah. So I did see, thank you for sharing that spreadsheet with me. I just want to know, I saw 2 towns in Bergen County where they amended the 1/3 of the mill. So I want to know, like, how would that happen?
Because that's the
On,
result of if the equalized valuation number gets amended, then the 1/3 bill gets amended. It has nothing to do with the town getting money back from the library gets 33 cents for every $1,000 of that number. So if that number gets amended, that would be how the 1/3.
I think we're ahead. I think what we have to do is, again, I believe we should be thinking about this municipal complex. Now, again, there's a whole spectrum of, we can build, 4 walls, and that's a building. Let's see what we can build. And then, of course, the library who should own within those 4 walls, if they want to use some of their money, it's their choice on making the walls purple. So I recommend.
What's purple?
That's their choice. So but I think it's our responsibility to build the 4 walls.
Well, we own the library.
And you could bifurcate that with, you're building a shell of building, and the HVAC and so forth, and then the inner workings of the FF&E portion of.
Correct. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm
So-
imagining.
On that, with the $600,000 in the capital fund, be able to be utilized by the library for the special effects within the structure.
The special,
Well, the areas that you want to put one from a.
well, that's our intention.
Correct.
But
Yeah,
like the
alright.
things that you see listed under our future building plans, that is what we intend to do with the money in our capital budget.
Just following through the hypothetical, if the new building, where it costs $7.5 million, inside of that $7.5 million would be funding to finish out the building. Obviously they have to be fully functional.
Right.
So as you get into the interior amenities that the library want to offer, we can tap into whatever that cost is, utilizing some of the capital.
Yes,
Okay.
but we definitely, I mean, I don't know how quickly this
We'll see.
Because
We'll
we
figure
didn't
it out.
want to wait
Of course.
we want to.
Right.
We were waiting for the roof to get done before we started. These
I
were
know.
things we had planned for quite some time.
I know, I just started in on the tail end of the roof, scenario.
Yeah, no, I
Which we have something, there's an additional week that is materialized, our engineers are on it. We are at the point where I think that the engineers are gonna have the contractor remove the work that they did and they have to do a new roof again. And then a lot of that discussion is gonna be with Wendy in closed session.
Yeah.
But we are well aware of the new week and we're addressing this.
Julie, does the library have to be in the location it is right now?
Sorry, I think it's very advantageous for us to be in the municipal center because it's good for the town to have it.
Of course, you want a central place.
center. And it's also near the schools and there's adequate parking.
Mhm.
Because some of the libraries, like I was recently in the Pagoda Library. And they really they're in the municipal building in Pagoda. But there's basically no deeded parking. You have to park on the street to get to the library. And there's not that much parking on the street. Whereas, I mean, you see here what it's like, how wonderful it is to see the kids playing soccer over there, a program in the library on Sunday, and people, at the community garden. So it's very nice to be centralized. And one of the things I have to say is that I'm really thankful that you guys have done the roof for the library. But, as a homeowner here for 54 years, I know it's always better to do maintenance before things fall apart than to wait until there are leaks in the roof or plumbing problems or whatever. Because, the old saying, a stitch in time saves nine. And that's the problem here. These buildings have never been maintained. In the last 40 years that I've lived here, I've never, I've seen squirrels coming into this building, jumping up from trees that are overhanging, and roofs that are never replaced on a timely basis. I mean, this is what you guys are supposed to be up on. And you've sort of been neglectful. Talking about new buildings. Well, where are we gonna do a new building? There's no space here.
Well, we've discussed it. I agree with everything you're saying. I also agree that we haven't taken care of these buildings and it's not worth keep putting good money after bad money. We spoke about with the engineer and I think it's a great idea. My vote would be literally on this same complex, like literally across the street. Across the parking lot. Such that literally on Friday night, you close this library, and on Monday morning, the kids go to the other one. So I wouldn't move it. I'd keep it in the municipal complex and create a way such that we don't lose one day. Yes, something. Well, we're gonna lose very few days. And literally Friday night, Monday morning, that would be my opinion.
Well, the difficulty with that is that's across the street is on the hill. So that's going to complicate things.
Again.
Yeah, let's not get into site.
Right, I know nothing about these
Yeah.
other. Yes. Okay, this is awesome. Great.
Any other questions from council members?
Just I wanted to point out the Presco Library right now is undergoing a major renovation. And essentially the library was allowed to amass approximately $1.2 million in order to do that. FYI.
Yeah, double.
Thank you all.
Oh, you have a question?
I have a question for you. You and I talked over the phone and you also mentioned that perhaps I should go in front of the council on Tuesday. Would now be a
Sure,
time for you
absolutely,
to chat about what we discussed?
Open right up.
Okay, so my name is Nicole and I'm actually the mayor's alternate for the board. And it's so exciting that we're sitting here this morning and having these discussions and you guys are asking such excellent questions. And although Mark and I have great communication, really would be more seamless if we had a joint use committee between perhaps two of the council members, two of our stakeholders, our director, perhaps quarterly, especially now that we're talking once again about another building. There's lots of line items that we share with the borough that many of the council members weren't aware of, or there was miscommunication about. And it's just so great. We have new council members. It's a new year. We're fresh. I think this is a perfect time to set up a joint use committee where every few months, perhaps quarterly, we discuss this versus Mark and I, which we have wonderful communication, then communicating to you guys, and then he's communicating back to me, that sort of thing.
So I love that idea, and I apologize that I spoke to Elaine as well, and I just
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to keep it all traveling. I would actually, and we don't need to do it here, but I would love to take it up immediately with Belmar afterwards. Every other committee has a council representative, a member of one of the six of us.
Yeah.
Except, literally, I looked, except for the library.
Correct.
So I actually meant to speak to Omar, it's my fault, on, is there a legal reason why every other committee in this entire town has one of the six of us,
I
but
think
not
it's just
library?
practice, that's all.
So I would love to propose, and again, let's take it offline, that one of the six of us. No, I wouldn't create another committee. I hate committees, you know. I once sat on a committee of committees. I swear on my life. But what should do, you guys already have board meetings. I believe one of the six of us should be a member of that committee, and then you have the voice of the council at that meeting.
Okay, and so just so you know, we meet every month.
So we,
So,
town meets
I
every
mean,
month,
that's-
chamber meets every
I
month.
believe we meet during the day now.
No, we meet at night.
So there you go.
There you go. So
Yeah.
if Omar's the boss, if Omar says we can do that, I'd love to have the mayor appoint one of the six of us to your standing meeting.
Yeah.
And then you, I think that,
I think this would be fabulous, because there's so much to communicate between our board and how the library runs and what's going on with
I
Borough
love it.
Hall, and it would be wonderful. Just as an aside, I'm double dipping a little, not legally. I own another house upstate New York. And it's a very sad situation where there was this huge miscommunication and falling out and sort of right versus left politics in a little town called Lake Luzerne. It turned out that there was so much harassment and intimidation that the director of the library had no choice but to resign. Board members resigned, the library closed. It's a terrible situation. So the New York State SALs got involved, and they had to appoint board members, and we're just opening up now, again, after 7 months of not being open. Now, that's the other side of the spectrum. We have a beautiful library in a wonderful town, great board members that are really committed to this town. But one of the things I notice is we have a really elegant, fancy town, but we don't have that library that really speaks to, I think, what our town really represents. We have wonderful restaurants and a beautiful downtown, et cetera. I walk into Valley Cottage, New York's library, and it's something amazing. It's beautiful. And the library gets a lot of use. Everybody's there. Adults are there during the day. Kids are there all afternoon and evening. My two kids spend the afternoons there because I worked until 6 o'clock. That's where I went to pick them up. It was time so well spent for them. Keeping it in the municipal complex, all these things that we need to talk about. We do have monies that we've been saving and saving and saving because we have moldy carpets and we have stains and there's all kinds of issues. So there's so much for us to be talking to you guys about. So if there's a board member or two board members that want to come to our meeting every single month, and you think that's a better situation, we really would welcome that greatly. I think that would make the communications and moving forward in whatever avenue that we do move forward in, go more seamlessly.
we'll talk as a team and we'll get back with it.
Fantastic.
And I just have a question, you
Go
know,
ahead.
just because I'm new and I don't know, but the money that you're allocated, right, the 1/3, you're talking about maintenance, right? Is that the maintenance that you're talking about, is that money that comes out of your allocated money?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we pay for it.
We're charged a percentage of the electricity for the complex based on a square footage.
Okay.
And maintaining like, I mean.
Generator.
Our maintenance, we are cut down
Okay.
by the borough.
All right, everybody good? Thank you, everyone, for the
Thank you guys so
library.
much.
We appreciate the
Perfect.
time and
Thank
energy. Keep up the great work.
You know, like,
More importantly, too, is look,
I didn't. I didn't talk there. No, that's what I was like.
that's all I care about. The meeting's over.
I was a little bit of a be quiet on this one, because I was like, I don't want them to take my book away.
Still like, it's basically,
That's good to know that.
thank you too.
Rose. Rose. Six up.
We have to,
Yeah, let's-
it's definitely
Six up.
every time I've been, and I was, you know, we did the, sprinkler system, I always think I always, but you know, it only gets.
We did our kitchen, so we didn't round before it's
Right.
like,
No,
the bill that we did at the time, it was ungodly expensive.
No, it's really.
It was true. Anyway.
So guess what? You're looking good.
Yeah. You guys want to join the party?
I really want to. I'm not saying love to my lab was such.
Hey, Adam, great job. Morning, everyone. But you know, you'll be to build a 30,000 square foot research center on top of the library and get them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we should do.
Absolutely.
5, 9.
Mine's right here to be correct.
That's what happens. Well, actually, you guys, friend Phil, could just deal with AI with Princeton University and see if we can do something.
Yeah, why not?
So it's your.
Jeff,
Morning.
how are you today?
Not too
You
bad.
want bagels, flops, cream cheese,
Thank you very much.
stuffed tomatoes? Coffee?
I have some in the office, thank you.
All right, why don't you introduce yourself? And we have, two new council members here who should introduce themselves.
Welcome to the meeting. Jeff Statham, tax assessor, since 2019. Prior to that, an appraiser for both, all three residential, commercial, and industrial properties. My own firm and another firm. Give that up to this position.
All right, Jeff, why don't you walk us through whatever you'd like to talk about, and the council members will ask questions.
Okay, my budget typically doesn't change much year over year. Most of my stuff is statutory and it's not all that expensive, mailings and such. Postage goes up every year. Some of the conferences go up every year. Other than that, everything kind of stays pretty much the same. We added, I believe, between 30 and 40 million to the tax list this year. The added assessments were about 40 million when we take away money for appeals and money for demos. The demos come back obviously once the new properties are completed. Market is surprisingly resilient. It is lasted at least a year and a half longer than I thought it would. And the way things are going, I'm going to stop. What's working before forecasting when the market's going to crash. I just don't know when it's going to happen. I expect when interest rates go down, everybody says that the market prices are going to go down because property is going to be available. But I think the way the market is now, when interest rates go down, everybody's buying power is going to go up and the prices are going to stay high. So it could go either way. It's just something that we have to keep an eye on. Appeals are finally, well, last year they were pretty good. They're in line. We have, unfortunately, one attorney that just continues to file appeals on properties that have been settled. So my thoughts on that are, what I would like to run it by the council is to file cross appeals. Typically doing cross appeals on commercial and industrial properties are more palatable because it's a business. Cross appeals against residents are a little more unpalatable because then you're targeting your residents.
Tell us what gross appeal is.
Where if the way the appeal would work is if an attorney files an appeal on one property and we have it assessed at 2 million, I'm gonna use equalized values, just market values. We have it assessed at 2 million. They come in with an appraisal at 1.4, 1.5, and I say, okay, I think I could support the 2 million, but obviously if we go before the court, I'm gonna hedge my bets because you have an appraisal at 1.5. So let's see if we can settle at 1. If they agree, we settle at 1.8. It's lower than I want, but it's higher than what they would probably want in a court case. We settle at 1.8. Now, our ratio changes every year. So last year it was at 80%, which just, multiply the value by 20% when we're at 80, and that's what the market value is. So this year it's at 75. So it's another 5% difference. What this one attorney does is if we settled last year at 1.8 at 80%, she's filing again now claiming she wants 1.8 at 75%. Well, you can understand that logic, but the reason the ratio changes is because the market is elevated. The market has increased by 5% over last year. So that's why the ratio changes, goes down by 5%. So with all of that out there, when I settled at 1.8, I felt like I could support 2. Now at 1.8 at 75%, I think I could still support 2, or at the market now 2.2 if I needed to, file a cross appeal and say, if you force me to get an appraisal to support my value, we will go to court and I will request an increase. So if I request an increase, you're looking for a decrease, and we both have appraisals that can support it, let's all walk away. That's what we did with the Knickerbocker Country Club. I believe that we were talking about that last year. They have two properties with, they had 6 years outstanding on each property. We filed a cross appeal on that. We got them to walk away. No harm, no foul on either side.
I would definitely do that for businesses, like you said.
Yeah, for the businesses.
Yep.
Our problem is we're 95% residential. All of these repeat filings are in residential property.
Sorry, I apologize, I take that back. What I'm most interested in, and we spoke about this last year, are the builders, the out-of-town builders.
Yeah, no, those are being assessed properly. This is for tax appeals. It's not for new assessments.
So you already have that, you
Yes.
own the home.
Yes, it's somebody that's already has the home, they've owned it for years, and they're just saying that they're over assessed. And the problem is, in my experience as an appraiser before this, you can always, not always, but almost always support any value you really need to. There's always 1 or 2 bad sales. In my experience, if they're low, they're bad. But if they're in the other experience, if they're low, they're good. There's always 1 or 2 of those sales, and they're going to get thrown into every single appraisal. So you have to.
I take your counsel, your advice. The biggest thing though is similar to other parts. Again, I'm making this all up. We're a town that you could always go after them. You just keep getting hit over and over and over again. If you just stand up once, like a bully,
And that's why it's only one
they'll go
attorney.
to another town.
It's one attorney, and
Yeah,
that's
so I
why I
would
said-
say that one attorney.
Can you win that though? I mean, if I was getting an appraisal, I'm gonna go to the bank, right? Here's what my mortgage appraiser do. They're 20 points back anyway, right? So how do you substantiate how you actually win that? Is it just a bully kind of threat that's worked from Knickerbocker? Or is it, it's really a tough call?
Yeah. First and foremost, you can't use mortgage appraisals. You have to have a tax ready, a court ready appraisal done. And then Judge Andrusini is very experienced. He's semi-retired. He was brought back in because of the magnitude of appeals that were out there. The court doesn't like residential appeals to go to court. So that's why we've settled some of these, but now I feel like we're being taken advantage of. So
what's the magnitude of the transactions you feel like are being taken advantage of? How many?
right now, she filed a soft number of probably 20 that we've settled within the last 2 years.
Wow.
Julie, go ahead.
She filed a lot, remember the year before? Hundreds of thousands.
You started your concerns by saying that she's the town, but by doing this, you see this cross appeal action, that it puts the town in you feel like a little bit of a precarious situation of being seen as going after residents.
Correct. That's my concern.
And I appreciate that. However, I would just ask you though, from a purely financial point of view, if we were taking out the look if we're looking to like neutralize a person who's that, not a person, a movement that's a little bit, disingenuous, then I think that it's just, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's better governance if we, in fact, take out some of the, oh, I'm concerned about the political look, and in fact, like, well, we need these taxes to run the town.
Yes.
So, I think we have to get it to where the issue is. We're gonna spend our time on the tiny percentage of just commercial property, and when the elephant in the room is the residential.
And we could let these sit for a year or two in tax court and see where the market goes, but then, we're gonna put ourselves back into the position that we're in when I started. When I started, there was like 135 parcels that were under appeal, not just years.
It sounds like it's less the person, the resident, you and me, and more Joe, like the actual
It's this
lawyer.
It's this one.
I think we should,
So this sounds to me,
A lawyer says keep on filing. You just-
Jeff, I don't think you, don't take this the wrong way. I don't think you framed it really the right way with the whole issue of going after a resident. I don't think that's the issue. I think this is a matter of fairness.
Yes, and that's what I try
If
to.
we've got 15 or 20 people that expect that they're not gonna pay their fair share like everybody else is paying, well, then I think you have to deal with that in a manner that makes sure they pay the fair share as all their neighbors are.
Yeah, and that's what.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation with an attorney in another capacity where they would file all kinds of litigation because typically the county in that particular case would overset. So the county officials decided that we're gonna take a stand. We're not gonna settle anything. Well, that straightened it out in one or two cases.
Yes, and
If they don't, in that case, they would want to put the time in and money to go to trial.
Yeah.
And
my experience, well, not my personal experience, but speaking with others about this one attorney, I think that if we tell her we're going to court and we say, let your clients know we want appraisals and we're gonna follow through with this, she might start to see the light.
Yeah.
But
How many houses are there in Tenafly?
houses, we have 4805 line items. I'd say probably 4,200 of them are
And
houses.
how many of them go into appeals every year?
Right now, I'm down to less than 100.
Okay, so I think it sounds to me like the council is saying you need to pursue this situation to make sure it's fair for all the taxpayers.
And that's what I explain when people come in and appeal and they're at me about the appeal. And I said, well, how do you feel now? Your neighbor, if they're appealing, feels the same way. And when I'm fighting you, I'm actually fighting on their behalf. And when I'm against you, I'm on their behalf.
Right.
So it's just,
Right.
you gotta try and do
It's gotta be fair for everyone.
Yes.
Right. So you need to enforce that.
Okay, then,
if I could just indulge, I get with the department heads yesterday, email communication with them ahead of time. And what I've asked for them to do is to sort of look at the functionality of their departments, remove the constraints of statutory and regulatory obligation, and then advise the council what would be their priorities. How are they sort of thinking outside of the box? What are their priorities and how would they get to their goals? What would they need to get there? Tools, equipment, staffing, what have you? With the goal of making the offerings of their departments, available online so that people can access stuff that needs to their home. Or, how do we sort of minimize the cost in borough funding and they have the ability to do it. So Jeff is on point and I'll ask him if he wants to answer any of that. But this is an example of the cross appeals that would protect the borough receiving the revenue we have. Because the $30 million that was realized equals out to a dollar number that then is available for revenue as we get into the totality. So Jeff, go ahead.
yeah, as far as the software and the online stuff, Bergen County supplies our software. They pay for it. They pay for the licensing, the mod 4 that I use. That is a program I'm required to use. So as far as software to do my job, that's covered. They pay for that. I know that in the meeting we were speaking about GovPilot. I believe in the past, I've looked at that, the modules they offer for assessing is for 200-foot lists, putting some of our deduction forms and things like that on a website. We have that already. I believe Omar worked on digitizing that so that you could fill them out online and they would get mailed directly to us. So for my capacity at this moment, the website's doing that already for me. And the software and a laptop is provided by the county. I'm functional with that. If for whatever reason I have to be home, I'm functional on my laptop as well. We have employee access for email through the website. My department's a little different in that the county handles a lot of what I do. So in that effect, there are probably small things on the pilot that I could use. Most of it's already available to me.
Right.
Going forward though, there is a new program which I need to further educate myself about digitized tax maps. It's an expensive program.
What does expensive mean?
I've been told anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 a page per tax map. We have 37 pages.
Wait a minute. $5,000 a page?
Yes, because what it does is it redoes the entire tax map. It digitizes it. It would overlay it with satellites. So it would help DPW, it would help building so that you could just go to the website and click on different tabs and you would have the improvements, you would have easements, you would have lot lines.
How many pages do you have?
37.
So it's a $200,000 project.
Yeah, it's not something that needs to be done. It's just something looking forward. That's all.
What project is this? Is it
It's
GSI?
It's attached to GSI. It's something that you can do through the state, submit through the state, because every so many years we need to get our tax maps authenticated by the state.
Does it eliminate this $10,000 per year expense on tax maps?
It would actually help that because once this is done, the yearly updates or bi-yearly updates that I do, they would be enacted quicker, cheaper, and easier.
Which cheaper mean?
That I don't know. That's why I said I have to educate myself further.
Because it should be, maybe we're already paying for it, to John's point. Go ahead, Vinod.
And then you would have to do all 37 pages.
Yes, it would be something we would have to bid out. We would have an engineering firm come, whether it would be ours that we have or somebody else, and they would, verify all the lot lines and mesh that into the system.
So the $200,000 would be a one-time setup implementation.
Yes.
And then there's a maintenance cost. We didn't find out what that maintenance
Yeah,
cost.
that's right.
Okay.
We were talking about it this year at the league. It's something that I want to look into. You're asking forward thinking.
Yes.
So it's just something that I figured I would throw out there.
Is there any software that Michael's using in the DPW or Bob is using in the building department that has modules that already do this sort of thing that become an add-on? Have you talked to both of the gentlemen about that?
I have not, but from the program that I went to at the league, this is a new system that you're using. It's one that the state is starting to implement. It's not a required thing. It's just something to make lives easier going forward.
The building department already is doing their scans of their measure maps of their plan.
Yes.
How would this tie into that?
It's similar to that. They showed a demonstration, like I said. I need to look into this further. It's not something I'm asking for. But they showed a demonstration where they took the GSI and then they took a tax map and they overlaid them to the best that they could. And lines were off by a little bit. The scale, whether it's 1/100 on your GSI map and 1/100 on your tax map, they weren't matching up. This is something that would incorporate everything into one document. It would be different layers. If anybody's familiar with CAD, AutoCAD or anything like that, it would be different layers that you could add and remove so that you could see everything layered on top of each other or only one thing that you wanted to see.
And Jeff, if we did that, that would automatically be available public facing?
Yes, it would be. Yes.
Everybody can see everything.
Well, it would be helping really the real estate market.
It would help real estate, it would help residents it wouldn't take the place of a survey, but if people had surveying questions, they could go to the website and look at their needs and bounds.
So it would be an internet service.
Yeah.
This goes to the thing that we've been talking about each time, which is every department has to be looking at how do we do things more efficiently, how do we stop doing things that we just historically been doing. It's a great example.
This is,
And this software sounds like it'll pay for itself.
Right.
yeah, this is something I would say is maybe 2 years, 3 years out, but it's just something I wanted to bring to the forefront.
So is that,
Yes.
is that something that once it's done, you can charge people for, for the use of it?
That, I don't think so, but like I said, I would look at it, I could look at that. It's just something, it would be, like right now we have our digital pack app that use quotes because it's just a PDF that we put on. That's it. This is something where you can actually interact with, zoom in, zoom out. You know, if you click on tab 1, you have blue lines around your property. If you click on tab 2, you'll see a red line where the easement is. If you click on tab 3, you'll see the outline of the building that's on the property.
I just think that, you're, getting a service.
It's not an official survey. I can't do anything I can do on Zillow Maps. Right? I can see the same thing on Zillow. It's a lot more on Zillow.
Yeah, an example of charging could potentially be if there's layers to what's available. So if you had a basic digitized thing that was available with public facing for free, that, and if there were layers that.
You pay for incremental,
And that's just, we can just do some research. But I'd like to thank Jeff, because this was relatively, very new, put on him, and he's the first department that's not tied to a separate funding source to have those questions asked.
Great.
He's at the bar and Mike has to.
Well done.
Well, it's just one
Building
process.
He wants a $300 chair. Yeah, but he wants a $300 chair.
I think it's one of terms. I think if we get 2 or 3, if we make 2 or 3 enemies, we're probably ready to go away on the rest of it. That's just.
All right. Any more questions for Jeff?
Thank you so much, really well
You're doing a
done.
great job.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Oh, yes.
And keep us posted on that process.
The appeal or the map?
The court, the court.
Yeah, I'll talk to the
Keep
attorney.
it posted.
I'll talk to the attorney. There is something called the freeze where we have to wait 2 years. I have to ask him because if they file an appeal, they don't have to wait 2 years, obviously, because she's refiling them every single year. I'm hoping that was available on both sides. So if not, we have to wait till next year, but as long as everybody's in the know, then I'll just proceed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Thank you.
We have time for a 2.5-minute break.
Heights.
Michael, thank you for coming in.
Morning.
I hear you're staying for the capital budget discussion also.
Sorry.
A 2-hour long meeting.
Time is, it is 10 o'clock exactly.
Wasn't that 25,000 last year? You're talking about.
Yeah, sorry, it was
25,000. Actually.
Let's all be 10 minutes early, but that silly meeting.
I didn't see it at all.
It's probably in the administrative.
I love that. And again, it says downtown and it's blank. That's the, so if you.
Maybe like public events, but I'll find out, yes, sir, because I know we worked on that in my budget and Susan made.
At it, I saw it very clearly, and it said.
We actually have in an old ordinance, $5,000.
Nature center, something for this word, free, welcome committee. Downtown, 0.
So there's nothing in here, which is 5 years.
Right.
There's a line, let me find it for you, there's a line that has what you're talking about.
As long as,
25,000.
as long as it's there, I'm free.
It's in the budget, and I'll dig out where it is, but because I heard that,
Yes, no, 30.
It's supposed to be like 5 advance, but it's supposed to be all money spent on it.
Yep.
So I just upped it.
Perfect.
As
long as-
5,000, thinking that.
That's great. As long as you can find it, I'm good.
Yeah, we'll get it. Hey.
All the stuff we have, costs, reports, what each truck costs every year.
Yes.
Doing it that way. But it's not fine, so like, oh, they take care of their own. Take care of their own, takes care of their own. I have 60 vehicles in my, maybe this guy thinking that you would spend it.
Let's say you get that much.
So I need to beat him by the building.
I don't mean, it's not a celebration of the public events.
Perfect. As long as I see the number, you see the number, it's great.
Contact them.
I mean, that's a lot.
Can't help it.
Right.
Integrates.
That's too much.
Early visual.
Literally.
So I can actually. If there's, I can send permission code, do they have the zoning for the swimming pool they want to put in?
I'm killing it, dude. On time, on budget. You should totally run for mayor.
Okay, okay, ladies and gentlemen, you ready inside?
The water is soft. Right? Does it have to be? Big structure. Wood on Salem to the wall.
Jamie said that she wouldn't come to the meeting. If I didn't bring her.
I don't even outside. Has to be like a bendable wood. And the salt will need that. That aluminum nail is mounted to steel. It'll just erode it. It'll just be. No, you need a fully breathable. That's coming down. I mean, what we have is what we should stay with.
What are we looking for?
Almost 40 years.
Yeah, it's something, I remember, I upped it.
Better. You might get. We wouldn't be where we are.
I see it in your commentary. I could not find it.
I'm not gonna solve the problem.
Okay.
Just what it is.
You guys ready?
I'm sure it's gonna happen. Now you're thinking. But, it was worth it. It was worth it.
You never liked me anyway.
How are you?
Okay, Michael.
Mike Cassick, sorry, I'm trying to eat there. Good morning.
Great morning.
Wow.
All right, Michael, you know our two new council members?
John, I met, Jamie, I just met.
Yeah, introductions being over. Go ahead, Michael. Tell us your, tell us your, tell us what's going on, Michael.
These special events.
All right, guys. Michael,
Where is that?
why don't you give us your narrative?
In trouble now.
I'm pretty sure.
We'll start, operating. You've all got my justifications. What we've done in streets and roads, obviously, bottom tells it, increases and decreases. It's a 0% increase in my roads operating. Any of those pluses were minused out by things we don't need anymore. Recycling, or increases, there's no telling what we're gonna be spending on recycling from month to month. It goes up and down, mostly up. As of August of 2022, we were still being paid, we were getting paid for our recycling. Since then, it's been nothing but pay.
But how much were we getting paid for that?
Hold on a second.
The recycling should, the conversation,
Yeah.
the conversation about recycling should be, what's the degree of our loss every year? Not about what we're getting, right? So,
I mean, it used to be,
Right.
net.
It was more, I mean,
Great.
everybody used to take plastics 1 through 7. You would get paid on all of it. That's gone the way to go. Now it's 1, 2, 5 only, and they really don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
We were getting, in 2022, January of 2022, we were getting paid $35 a ton for paper, and we were paying
Try not to.
$5.64 a ton. I'm sorry, $42 a ton for co-mingling. The paper, you make more on the paper, offsets the
but
cost.
let's rephrase that. We lose less on the paper. We don't make money on any of this.
At this point, yes.
But back then,
Real quick,
Yes, but
hey, before you get too far into it, we have the three separate, the three separate sections of that. Is there anything that we can do to put all the problems in one?
All the other board, all the what?
All the like streets and recycling.
In one report, that would be my.
No, but I mean, with, I don't know.
You mean combining recycling?
Yeah, putting it.
Plus to make it instead of sub-departments within public works, one big department.
That would be something that Susan would have to spearhead because all of these accounts and the ledgers and stuff are driven by her. So
We pull from them as needed.
I mean, the three separate is doing good. I'm not saying it's not. Just saying, there is something we can do to combine them.
You could.
Summarize that document, say this is public books and give you a summary of all. I think they have to stay as they are, chart of accounts.
Of course.
But I think what you're looking at is
Just the
overall
overview,
overview, and this is
yeah.
what our total
Right.
impact is, right?
Julie?
You could look at the appropriate-
Guys, Julie, then John.
I just wanted to say, Mike, I know we spoke about this a little bit at Environmental Commission. When I learned about Atlantic Coast Recycling now opening back up, can you just give everyone that, quick overview of what we've been doing since that fire?
Right. So, well, I guess it was 2020 or early 2021, our regular vendor in Passaic had a catastrophic fire, closed down because no longer dumped there. So they worked with us and got us alternative dumping sites, which turned out to be Newark and Jersey City. So we have to drive now every day that we recycle out to either Newark for the paper, Jersey City for the paper, Newark for the foaming of the dumper. We had increased toll money that we never had to pay before because Route 21 is a toll-free road, before toll-free. They are opening up. They were shooting for March.
I thought, right?
But yeah, I don't, they sent something out last month. I don't, it's gonna be any day now, but again, and it's been the, the fishing line. Hey, when we open back up, numbers are gonna get better, but
Yeah.
nobody knows. Nobody
But
knows.
it really, it should, and they are,
Right. You would hope,
it's,
you would hope.
and then that's the one and that's why there's a decrease in the cost for the recycling now, because they're gonna be opening up that place.
What, John, go ahead, then I have a question.
I'm just curious, I'm not particularly bright, so I'm asking about when you're saying the paper and Mark's clarifying not making money versus recycling, what are we actually talking about there? These are all net outbound costs, right? So
We
say-
used to get paid
Well, that's what I'm wondering
for
about.
recycling, that's not.
Yeah.
Now
So what happened?
Nobody wants to buy the stuff. China stopped buying it in 2017.
I mean, macro.
It's more because they used to
Yeah.
buy
What?
all our contracts.
Yeah, it's all market driven, John.
Kind of fabulous.
What?
It's kind of fabulous if you can sell your.
Pretty much before you got on council, we made money.
Right, yeah.
So we're hoping to be able to cut that, and that's one of my, as I spoke with Dave, he said, give some goals and objectives. That's one of my goals is to reach out now. When they open back up, we're going to see where we're at, and then we can reach out, work with them. We don't have a contract. It's not a requirement. We can take it pretty much wherever we want. So then once they're back settled and figure out what they're doing, if it's not amenable to us, we'll just start looking elsewhere, right? Maybe we'll go back down to Jersey City if it's going to offset the cost of wear and tear on the truck, but probably not. I've got some numbers here that are a little eye-opening as far as that.
What percentage of our recycling do you think winds up in the landfill or at Covanta for fuel?
They,
Just like at the state level numbers?
Say that depends on which channel you watch and,
Yeah.
What feed you have on your phone.
Yeah.
I've seen anywhere from 30% to 90%.
Yeah.
The naysayers are 90% to 95% is going in the landfill. All the glass, all that stuff, I think Clifton is the only town or city in New Jersey that actually was paid for glass because they separate by color.
Right.
And
Right.
they only want the clear, they don't want the amber, they don't want the green. So, again, everything is market driven. We don't have a market to take it to, we're stuck with who the vendors are that we can deal with. So, and nobody knows where it's going.
Who's separating the plastic? The city of Clifton.
Clifton, I believe. I don't know if they still do it, but they were doing it when I was taking my recycling classes. And they were the only ones in the state that would get.
How are we collecting? Are we doing a single?
We're dual stream. Our commingled is plastics 1, 2, and 5, and any glass, tin, stuff like that. And then mixed paper is cardboard, junk mail, if you pull the envelopes out, have the windows out, office paper, all that stuff.
I drove by one of your folks, doing food this morning.
This morning, they were probably doing commercial,
Yeah.
emptying dumpsters. Yeah, we sneak those in.
I just want to say, just great job, and I'm sure everyone noticed, pretty much we were down on salaries for DPW. Just to keep everybody on their toes and confuse people. One of the things I think we need to talk about as a council is where do we invest? So again, we spoke about how do we get as tight as we can and as efficient we can across every department? And then actually add money to where we want to be. I would tell you, and it's 6, one of the places that I think we should be adding is to the DPW. So when we think DPW, we think cleaning downtown more often. We think I'm gonna make all these up, cutting more branches more often, putting up more banners downtown more often, I don't know what. So again, I want every department to push down, but I would tell you if we accidentally gave you another person, would you feel that person could make the town cleaner, prettier?
Agreed, but what our issue is right now is funding the position, not funding, but filling the positions that are currently funded.
You have 6 vacancies.
I have 6 vacancies.
But again, it's because the only reason would be either, we're mean bosses or we don't pay them. You're a pretty nice guy.
I'm a pretty nice guy.
So when I say another person, maybe the answer is raise it $10,000 the salary, and that would get you the person.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into it. Dave and I have sat
Some
down.
of it we're gonna talk about in closed session, it's contract negotiations.
Okay.
Part of it, Mike is constrained by the collective bargaining agreement as to what he can up to offer. And we're talking about some modifications with that. But the bottom line is, yeah, one of the reasons Joe Ross's position is vacant is the top scale may not be sufficient to really.
So let's talk about closed session, but
Yes.
again, to me, if I had 3 places, I think the DPW would be one of those 3 places that, again, I just want the parks prettier, I want the banners up higher, I want the trees trimmed better, etc.
That's one of my goals and objectives.
Mike, so if tomorrow you had all 6 of those vacancies filled, would that, now you're at full strength, would that do sort of fulfill what Adam is suggesting, or would you?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. If we could fill the funded positions now, I'm not looking for extra just yet. I would, since I've been here, it's going on 4 years now.
Well, what's the point of looking for extra if we can't fill it? Right?
What's the limiting factor in filling the 6, really? It's finding qualified individuals that are willing to take the pay to their office. And pay relative to other towns? Our top end is very competitive, but it takes you 11 years to get it. Okay, well, I'm a new guy coming in, what's the delta between me?
$41,000.
41, yeah, and that,
Per head?
yeah.
$41,000 per person.
So why the hell would I come here? Why are we not being attractive to make
So
sure we?
I think this is why we're having this conversation. And we're talking about this.
Dan wants to say.
We try to shift when it is open, and reach out to one. Sell it. Make it right now.
Right.
But
Nobody's taking the 11-year forward approach. And so
it's
that's all I said.
It's a very hard sell. That's why.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll have more details on some strategy.
okay, great. So as far as the recycling, I would just want to finish that up here. Recycling collection, for overtime, I implemented when I came here, with Vincent and myself, was, holiday pickups. Back in the old days, you just didn't get picked up, you got skipped until 2 weeks later. So now we moved that around and we pick up.
Maintain the regular schedule throughout the year.
Somehow, but that, again, that increases your overtime, you've got pay guys to do it. And recycling center overtime, which is just again, a line item that hadn't been increased in 5 years. That's for my guys that work up there. Snow is a perfect time to look at it. They come in on Monday and Tuesday when they're off. Those are off days. They're getting paid overtime. Some of those going for 12, 15 hours. So it adds up. And I think $1,500 increase. It's nothing new. Buildings and grounds overtime again, because we're short staffed. And the way there were 4 members when I got here. It was the maintenance supervisor and the 3, 1 man during the day and 2 men at night. Now we're running just the 3 guys. So 25% of my workforce hasn't been here since September of 2023.
Yeah.
And his job description is what his job description was when I got here. So we need to change that. that's something Dave and I have spoken about, is we're looking for a little bit more of a polished, more informed leader in that position, so I think that the salary scale may not.
So generally speaking, the overtime that you're spending is still well below the cost of the 6 vacancies. So whatever you're doing it right.
Well,
So keep doing it.
yeah, but what falls through the cracks is the issue. And I keep saying,
We should run out of manpower.
nobody knows what I'm not doing.
Right.
Everybody sees what I am doing, they don't see what I'm not doing.
Correct.
That's the stuff that is gonna come back and bite us. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So, solid waste, that was contractual. I think that was a really, really smart move on council's part to move forward early on that contract. We went up to a 12% increase as opposed to the 50 and 60 that people would.
Yeah, I went from 895 to 1923, and we may be able to pull some of that outside the cap percentage.
I think you mentioned that yesterday. I was going to ask, is that the entire amount or is it just the increase?
There's a formula that they allow you to pull out. It might not be the whole difference, but we didn't do that last year. So they said if you did any adjustments to the cap for the budget, you can't do it again, but we didn't have that one. We had workers' comp and liability insurance pulled out, but not garbage, so that will help us with that.
I would mention that the amount that we paid the BCUA, that is set, there was a surcharge that is set for January 1st through May 31st. BCUA has bids in the street that are due on March 8th, and they plan to award by the end of March. So we will then know the number and what the impact on our budget. Probably the week of May of March 11th, we get a ballpark, but that is something that is going to potentially impact the budget, right? So that's the question.
Yeah, I had a sheet that came in for BCUA, but I don't,
Yeah, but
they're gonna
they're not
amend
opening,
it now,
they're not opening, that was the surcharge, that's
Oh.
January 1 and May 31.
so that already
This is
went
for
up.
their next, where they take, or where they send the solid waste. So those bids are gonna be open on March 8th, so I could find out, talk to the deputy director or whatever. I'd probably find out as early as March 9th or more like.
So that could be a big number because some of this, that could be up to like 5-6%.
Historically, they try and, through the economy of scale, they get a better deal. For instance, right now, it jumped to, I believe, $86.14, whatever it is per ton. Whereas if you go outside of the BCUA contract, it's $110 at all these other locations.
If we go to a private place.
Right. We used to do for convenience when it was a little more comparable. We would go to Wheelie in Gloucester,
Right.
which is now IWS. And we don't do that anymore because they're $110 a ton.
Why would anybody go there?
Convenience.
Convenience.
Oh, the 80 versus the 86, yeah.
Our collector contacted me to ask me when they changed. They said, all right, now everybody has to go to a BCUA approved. Every Bergen County town has to go to a BCUA approved site. And they only have, they have whatever.
Oh, so if you're like a contractor with construction debris, you're gonna go over to Wheeling.
Right, you're not gonna drive the waste because
you're doing it once or twice a month, right?
you're not getting the BCUA contract price.
Right.
Municipality.
So why make the run?
Right. But, so, hopefully that's only gonna be a few dollars per ton.
Yeah.
Historically it has, but
It's just, it's an unknown, so hopefully it's not any great shock.
And, so I mean, again, our operating budget, I mean, I hate to use the word cut. If you're looking to cut, my operating budget is not a place to do it. We did some quick, back enacting that. The mayor's famous for saying, out of $1,057,000 operating budget, we had unspent in 2023, $9,000. That's 1%, which one did not spend. So if you're looking, to take things out, there's not much meat on the bone.
And again, there's nothing to, I don't think. I really hope to say this year's council, not looking to take things out. I think it's just 3 questions that we continue to ask everybody. What are your priorities? What do the residents say they want to see more? When they complain, sorry, when they give feedback, what's it more, right? So that's 1. 2.
That's what I get in my email feedback.
Right. 2, we just have always done stuff that we don't need to be doing anymore. If we really took a look at it, let's just stop doing it. And 3, things that we want to be doing, how do we do them more efficiently? You were here right for the tax assessor. There's some cool digital stuff we could do. I am all for investing such that we're more efficient going forward. So those are the 3 questions. It's not about, I hope this year is, it's not about just postage, really, like 36 cents. Do we really need 36 cents? That's a waste of all our time.
Okay. So that's pretty much my operating. If there's any questions, I actually have, my administrative assistant is viewing us today. And, if there's anything that I
Thank you.
can't answer, we can reach out to Christine and she will answer for me. So, I'm operating if anybody's got any questions.
More questions for Michael?
Here, I mean, filling those vacancies, that really has to be quality. How long has that been open?
It is.
It's up and down. Yeah, it's been up and down. Years. Yeah, I came on board in 2020. I had a full staff for 1 week.
And your
It's been down.
operational efficiency improvement and scope, which is dramatic. 6 on what denominator, how many do you currently have?
I'm authorized 24 driver laborers, 6 foremen in the DPW, and then, the one other missing is the building maintenance supervisor.
20% increase in your staff.
So John, I think kind of the way to look at it, and if we were having this conversation a year ago, Michael and I, it's like we kind of behave in a manner of slow to hire, in terms of making sure we're making the right decisions. And there was enough money for him to cover what was going on. There were 3 vacancies with overtime. But now, because of the economics that we already talked about, it's creeped up.
Well, it just makes it, I don't think that the spend on overtime versus the spend on 6 FTEs equates to the same operational efficiency and output.
Oh, I agree.
Right, and that's really what we're.
Right. He's using it when he has to.
Yeah, I don't want to say that we're doing day-to-day operations on overtime because we're really not.
Right.
Taxing your guy.
Yeah.
When he has
Taxing you guys, you burn out, they leave.
And
Right?
exactly. At
That's
some
how
point, everybody says, I just don't feel like working.
Right,
I just
exactly.
don't want
You don't want that. That exacerbates the problem.
One of the big drivers, and that was an increase that I did request, was overtime to accommodate special events or council directed items. So, I just a quick thing where,
What's the number in there?
that was $20,000. We've been at 90,000 historically, and since COVID, obviously, got blown out of proportion. But we've historically gone.
Do you have enough money in there for council directed items?
We do it.
You do, you have enough in there.
Well, that's part of the increase I'm saying is, right, things like that is all the events that we did. Stuff that we never did that.
Right.
Uh,
So now you have you're asking for the amount of money you need to get that accomplished.
Right, without having to dip into salaries that.
And that's an increase of 20,000.
Okay.
Yes,
So then on the other end of that, so what's the total? 110,000?
110 is the ask.
So just to put it in context, if we were to say, well, we don't want to spend that kind of money on overtime, we're going to hire somebody. You have, hold on, you'd have a $50,000 salary plus your health benefits, paid leave time, pension costs, FICA, all that. That quickly comes up to about $100,000. And then you're not going to get the kind of productivity that he's going to need by all the staffing to do that activity just with one FT. Is that correct?
No, that would be, yeah. But again, the unfunded positions are
Right,
going
so-
to take that.
I think the point I'm making is that the overtime, it's more prudent for us to increase the overtime than to bring on an additional person to reduce the overtime. Right?
Wait, say that one more time. But
Are we being more efficient with increasing the cost, the hours and overtime? Use that to pay overtime for these council directed events, as opposed to
hiring a new
person because one FTE is not going to satisfy the entire.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Got 2 different issues.
Yes. Again, if we could fill those positions, and I hate to say,
Dave, welcome to Tenafly, but that onus is on you. Council's aware, you know, the ins and outs of the HR system. It's been tough, and I'm really gonna count on you to get me out of.
Yeah, in my budget, I'm addressing some of the HR stuff. I was, talking, Councilman, Adam had brought up about the line purchase. You know, the entire HR function is just C.
Paper, yeah. You gotta be able to swim in paper.
Yeah.
But,
So Mike, I think,
No, I think if nobody minds, like, some of the big ticket items that, you know, the trucks and stuff that we need to discuss.
well, yeah, capital,
Yeah.
yep. I mean, you want capital first, or you want?
well, I wanted to go to one that's gonna impact the operating budget, and it's a large issue that I want to cover, about to be aware of, is that we are facing some significant, change of course with the way we collect leaves and dispose of them. So the state has, basically implemented a new, permit process that we are not going to be able to, be compliant with, which basically would require us to capture 100% of any stormwater. We have to design and build a facility around that, but even if you get a 2 or 3 inch rain event, anything spills out, you're in violation. You'd have to then take that collected, discharge and test it before you can do something with it to see if it's contaminated. So, Mike has put forth Mike has put forth a number that is a problematic number of $224,000, just a mathematical solution of trucking out 16,000 cubic yards of leaves. And then he has some basis for doing that. My concern is I want to, rather than just automatically saying, we're going to put that $250,000 structural impact into the budget that's only going to grow over years. Let's fully vet out whether there are any options that could reduce that cost.
But isn't Andy Hiblet coming in April to give us different options?
Yes, and I talked to Andy yesterday, so thank you for reminding me to talk about that. We're gonna have a meeting, Andy and Jamie and Joe and his staff together with Mike and I and Mayor, I think the week of March 11th, so we can sort of focus in on what may be options, what may not. We talk generally about, if we were to rent a tub grinder or buy one, would that be a solution? We've explored, do we go with the grinding on the actual collection apparatus? Why doesn't think that would work, because it's going to slow the process down significantly and wouldn't be efficient. And then, we can look at other towns if there's availability to share a service. The latter is probably unlikely because the permit is going to be so onerous and expensive that probably everybody's going to get out of it. So I know that Susan, one of her colleagues, is using a private company that comes in and grinds the leaves and takes them. We have to see whether they're still going to be viable in the business to do something like that with new permit regulations. And we can look at that. So
there's also one other solution, which is a whole thought process that's totally different, is that people shred their leaves and leave them on site. And then it will cost the town nothing to leave them on the extreme end. We've started, through the newsletter, we've started talking about that. We're going to be talking about it in every newsletter and more communication. Not that we'll never get 100% of people doing that. That's just not the way the world works. But every little bit, if 10% of people do it, that's low as 10% of our cost, right?
Shred your own.
Mm-hmm.
Just shred and mulch and leave it on site.
Well, the other thing, is I am
Yeah.
a voracious leaf blower, and I appreciate being picked up in the street, and I do it constantly, right? Because I'm the opposite guy.
You're that guy.
Right? I'm absolutely that guy. But the question is, and I hate to ask this question because it's hurting myself, but can we also push the onus to removal to the homeowner? I.e., I'm paying my landscaper more to extract it. I mean, that's a, hey, look, you're gonna go up, or you can shred your own, or you can do this, give the optionality to the homeowner I hate to pay more for it, but I will if it's something that's better from tax base standpoint, it's like, and it might be easier to set.
Or we could give maybe an incentive in some way.
Yeah,
So
Now that might cost less.
for the council's, so there's no surprises on the budget. Mike had put in a request of 224,000. I put a placeholder in as at 124,000 until we have these larger discussions and we'll revisit this before your final document is done. So that may need to be adjusted, but I'm hopeful that we can come up with some options that we're not just, in a process where we're shipping essentially air.
Yeah, you'll compress and compress.
To your point, David, was just as he's about to explain the other parts, is we need to keep in mind there's
a new, so the
number
cost,
he's put
yeah,
there
the
and.
cost to that in previous years has been 20,000, 25,000.
Right,
That cost now could potentially go up to 224,000.
gotcha. So it's so there, okay.
Yes.
So,
One of the things,
People short and you're about to layer this on. That's a very bad storm.
Well, we picked up the leaves with the manpower we have. Picking up the leaves is not my big issue. Again, we don't have the equipment and it's not a viable solution to shred them as we're picking them up. And the machines will do that to a point, but they hold so little and it's not efficient. We're gonna be picking leaves up in June. So you gotta get them done in that window. The shared service, and Dave and I have had this conversation, and the short time that he's been here, I've already reached out to other towns as far as shared services. I've reached out to leasing companies about leasing our own trucks and trailers so that we reduce the cost of the removal and we do it ourselves. And I pulled at least 4 locations for prices for what they would charge us to come.
and what feedback you get?
Our numbers are spot on. We said it was anywhere between $11 and $14 a yard to truck it out. And I've gotten 2 quotes. One is 13 and change per yard for them to truck it. The other one was $12 a yard for them to truck it. The 13 something offered $9.95 a yard if we bring it to them, which brings it, so that's 159,000.
Then we're in our own trucking business, right?
Right, well, it's 159,000, but now I got, it's gonna be, if we rented 2
Right, doesn't matter.
tractors, it's
Right.
$13,000 for the
Right.
season, and then I don't know what the trailers are yet, because they haven't gotten back, so.
Just so that everyone, kind of gets the broad picture. So when Michael and the team turn all the leaves over there for X number of months, we're basically turning all these leaves into topsoil, which is like as rich soil as you can possibly get. And so if we can do this educational thing and talk about the benefits of keeping it on your I think it will, because people don't know, the leaves just disappear and they go into heaven, right? Nobody really, and why would they care where they go to, right?
I like that.
I know that, yes.
Yeah, again, it all came down to you have to have a market. Everything we do that we collect is market driven. If I don't have the people to sell it to, and again, it's a moot point now because the DEP's not gonna let us do it.
Right.
They used to do that, down there, 40 years ago, when we had whatever, 11 guys working at Davis Johnson Park. This was a regular occurrence. They would take those leaves, make soil, spread it all around town. We can't do it anymore. We actually have some of the machinery that's necessary to do it.
What can we do?
DEP's not gonna let us. That's the whole crux of this, is that they're changing the moral rules.
May I ask you?
So it's basically an unfunded state mandate that is gonna force you to put $250,000 structurally in your budget. And we can't come up with another solution.
One of the players that I did talk to basically said, he goes, the best thing you can do as a municipality is to get together with some other municipalities, go to DEP and plead your case. So this is crazy. I mean, other towns, I live in Bergenfield, they paid $225,000 this year to take out 15,000 tons. That's just how some towns have done it historically for years. We had the site, we bought the equipment early on, and we're able to, we benefited as a community from that for many, many years. It's just now they're pulling the rug out from us. It's just gonna be the possibility. Teaneck was 14. The 3 towns I reached out to: Bergenfield, Teaneck, and Englewood Cliffs, and that's where we came up with that $11 to $14 per yard cost for 2023. Now I'm asking guys for quotes for 2024.
Wait, Teaneck has a site and they're closing like that?
Teaneck does not have a site. They have a temporary site, which they are allowed to use for 3 months out of the year, October, November, December, has to be emptied out every single week. They pay an RER or.
Why can't we do that to shred? To reduce our volume?
They're not gonna let us. DEP will not let you. It's the leachate, anything that falls is the leachate going into the ground. I don't know exactly. Again, this affects us because we have a Class B permit to compost. Bergenfield doesn't have a Class B. Teaneck doesn't have it, and Wood Cliffs doesn't have it. Again, they just truck it out. I don't know how they're affected by this ruling. I don't know, and Andy, when I asked him, isn't sure if everybody's gonna be able to get a 3-month exemption.
And that's what we're gonna ask him when we meet on the big lunch letter.
Right.
But so it's a fluid situation that I'm hopeful that we could figure something out, but I pick up on Mike's point, you know, and say, if we can come up with a solution and say, this temporary permit is what we need to have, so we're not looking at $224,000 in cost, you know, that's where then the mayor could meet with the legislative delegation or get into the DEP commissioners, all this. You're going to get, if you go DEP from the bottom up, you're going to get a no. And a no and a no. To change this, because it affects virtually every municipality, you really have got to start with the commissioner's office and see if you can work policy that way.
I just gotta throw in that 3-month permit, we would still cost us $225,000. It's that that just allows us to collect them from the roads, have a spot to dump them.
So the type B permit is $225,000?
No, the shipping
No,
cost.
You're still paying the difference. If we're gonna wait for a week, you're pushing them out every
Right.
week.
The temporary
What I'm
permit,
talking about is maybe you could grind it and compact it, we're not shipping out in the air.
but again, I think that's the part of where you're breaking things down and.
Right.
It's
But
gonna
that's,
get you-
but that's the position of getting to the commissioner of DEP to see if we could get some relief that way.
To tie in further down some of our goals and objectives, the new compactor, which is on its way. It's been ordered, we're looking for installation sometime, probably by May, hopefully. Wait here. That was for recycling. What we plan to do is to cut down on the wear and tear on the vehicles, the tires, everything. I said, it's $10,000 tire repairs, not including the cost of new tires last year. What we're doing is having a chute built on it. We're going to be able to collect our routes, dump here, as opposed to sending the trucks every day out on the road to dump it. Industry standard is anywhere from 3 to 1 to 7 to 1 when you compact. We're going to have to see where the happy spot is there, because if we compact too far and the stuff will come out at the dump, we're going to get in trouble. So that's going to be a learning curve, but we're looking minimum to be able to get, let's see, at least a week's worth of recycling into a box, sits there, go do the following week, put that in there, then send a truck to dump once as opposed to dumping 4 times.
And what budget have you done that? Was that last year or 2 weeks?
That compactor's been in there since,
It's the one ordinance that I've been holding on to.
Yeah.
2015.
Wow.
So that would be
So that
great.
really saved money.
that we're
That
looking
really
for
saved
that
money.
might help us, but
But it's a good for everyone to hear, but that kind of future planning really helps now. 2015 is quite a while ago.
thinking back on it is the fact that at the leaf site, as we're talking about pumping air, I don't want to say we can do it, but if we were to compact the leaves, we'd be reducing our, getting more bang for our buck in a 100-yard walking floor. You're going to get more product in. But again, that would have to be worked out. How, logistically we would do it. Do we have time on it?
Right. And it's not a magic line, it's just, let's make sure we're looking at all the.
Another
All the options, yeah.
So you've got many challenges: salt, leaves, staff.
I see as the easiest job.
Well, I know what else. But so far, that's 3. What's next?
Let's go, could you give the council an update on the Richard Street pumping station?
Richard Street Pump Station, the generator is completed, installed.
What is the Richard Street pump station?
Richard Street Pump Station is it's actually located on Jewett Court, and it collects 600 or so plus or minus houses sewage from Tenafly
And Prescott.
plus Breskill and Bergenfield pump a little bit in there. And it's a force main, basically goes into a big pit, pipes out into our sewer lines. You have an emergency generator. Storm Isaias in 2020 knocked our generator out, burned it out, and it was we finally got the generator back. We've been renting a generator since 2020.
John, if you really want to get a sense of it, you need to be up there during a rainstorm at about 1 a.m. looking at the 20-foot pit when the pump has died. It's not.
The mayor got there. The mayor got there. He was all smiles.
Yeah.
When I asked him to come back, he didn't call.
And then the rental will go away.
Yes, so then that's again part of our
Yeah. So,
cost of living sale. We no longer have to pay the 20,000. I'm sorry.
Why did it take?
I think everything, it's government, and anybody that's new on the council,
It's
it's government and it moves slow, no matter what.
A lot of this equipment also, John, to your question, things are made to order.
yeah.
I mean, a new fire truck is a 2-year cycle. From the time the council approves it, it's 2 years before it shows up here.
This year we're due for.
Our tree truck is a
When you
perfect
pay for it.
example.
On delivery?
But you have to
The tree
fund
truck.
for it.
took
You have to
20
fund it first.
You pay for it.
You as a taxpayer
Pay for it now.
last year.
Yep.
Still haven't done.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
that's not even a
you
fire
interest
truck.
bearing?
That's just a,
Go ahead, Julie, you have a question?
So I just wanted to ask, because I know he was
Okay.
at the pump, did you want to talk about capital now, or, you know, was there anything specific?
Well, I don't know, are we ready for that yet? What other questions do we have for?
Because that's always so, like, such big items on it.
right, and just to finish off on the pump station, we still have a training on.
Oh, he's staying for the capital.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
I'll get into that.
capital.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
No, that's what I meant.
He's just setting the stage for all the problems. Go stick around.
Until
Oh.
11.
Oh,
We have training anyway on the new generator on March 5th. We'll be able to pay that bill. It's gonna be on the bill list for Tuesday night. Susan's gonna hold a check until we make sure that everything's taken care of on that. What outstanding on that ordinance is still, fencing, because we need, now the generator is now outside. It used to be on an interior enclosure. It's now outside, so we need to fence it in. We've had problems with neighbors encroaching on the property, so.
Is that gonna lead to noise complaints to the outside?
We hope, I mean, we still have noise, we're hoping not, and again, we're gonna fence it in, we're gonna put slats in so you can't see through, and we're also gonna do, because the neighbors are concerned, we're gonna do some plantings around the outside, I think it was more. I don't know that. First thing they're worried about was the noise after what happened with the temporary generator at the high school.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is the noise that they'll be exposed to only the time we work to a generator?
Correct. That's
Asking you from my,
course,
yeah.
like a lot.
They'll learn to pull out once. Yeah. They'll learn to love the noise.
Michael, can you talk a little bit about the PSEG gas line replacement in the Stillman School District that
Yep, they're starting Mondays,
they started? Friday.
they said they were starting Monday. I heard they had trucks and.
Yeah, they were up on McKay Drive, maybe?
Yeah, they were starting McKay. They came from Englewood. Now they're starting McKay Drive and working down. They're gonna do McKay Drive, then Knickerbocker Road, then they're dropping down onto, I don't know, Oak Avenue. And it's replacement and or upgrading of gas facilities. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. They're starting there. They gotta go through the whole town.
And they're replacing, if you have a gas meter inside your house, they're taking it and putting them outside your house.
And they're replacing 2.5 miles of roads in conjunction.
It's worked out, yeah,
Right.
they're not required to do the whole road. If they only dig on one side, technically they only have to. So and replace it.
Looking at roads.
Yeah.
Well, what we do is in conjunction with our road program and the engineer, we meet in the middle. We say, okay, we'll pave this road, you pave that road. All the amounts come together at the end and we work together with them. So you don't have the strike through.
And there's also issues with, if they dig a trench on Monday, they spend all week doing their work, and they're done the following Monday. That doesn't mean they're gonna do the permanent road replacement right away, because when you dig trenches, they settle,
right.
right? So we may wait a season to to do the real finishing of the roads.
So you guys gotta be ready, like Mark is saying about for the feedback.
Well,
You're gonna get feedback.
You have to communicate that.
No, but we were told, and that's actually what I wanted to say, because I'm not sure if you knew this, but at the last meeting, the February 13th meeting, the borough engineer said if we get any called about the road
We'll take it.
with PSG to send it to him.
Right.
Because he's very intimately aware. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you were told that, but if it comes to DPW, it's to send it to him. That's what he said.
And, again, Christine's on, she's probably gonna hit me in the head when she sees me. I inform my staff, because we answer 80 phone calls, 90 phone calls a day, so depending on what time of year it is. And we're gonna get Dr. those calls.
Yeah.
The clerk's office will receive them. Dave's office is gonna get them. If my staff knows what's going on, we're gonna tell them there. I'm not,
You're not gonna forward.
yeah,
it.
you try not to just say, hey, because you give people to run around and it just aggravates.
Oh, yeah.
So.
That's true, but he is a resource.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're not happy with my staff's answer, then okay, we'll give you to the engineer. Give it call.
Okay.
And the streets that are affected by the DSCNG work are on the borough website. If you go
And
on the
we
left
also have
side,
our own letters. They
Pardon
read
me?
PSCNG. And they.
no, we put up PSCNG's communication,
Yeah,
right? It shows the street names and explains what's going on.
She's saying as a resident, she received.
yeah.
Yeah, of course, so did I, yeah.
Yeah, you did too,
Yeah.
because I was,
So
Very
it's been happening now, every Friday, the mayor and I are getting the update for the next 2 to 3 week snapshot from WSNG. And then and almost putting that up on the website, so there's,
even extra.
Yes.
Okay.
Another goal, Susan and I have been working pretty much since I got here on closing out old ordinances. The compactor is a perfect example, 2015 money that we're 9 years later, we're gonna finally have it off the books. She's closed a lot by herself, but that's one of the things we want to continue to do. I know I have capital projects that you guys have funded since I've been here that are still not completed. That's another, the onus is on us to get that done. Some of them are in this building and it's gonna make for interesting scheduling.
Michael, you should explain like some of the examples, like with the windows, cost, and then the supply issues
So,
that have happened too.
that,
The windows are so expensive,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
so, yeah, we put at one point, somebody put in $20,000 for windows for the borough offices. Each window, we got through state contract, we got prices. These guys want almost $5,000 for a window like that.
Yeah, I think we'll keep the windows we have.
Okay, well, that's what we're doing now is we have other contractors that I'm just gonna bring a guy in and say, here, take this window apart. Show me exactly what you need to do this, and we're gonna start the clerk's office, because that's a safety issue also. We have windows that don't open. That's an issue. So we're gonna start the clerk's office and, have them pull one apart, and then we're gonna get an actual cost, what it's gonna be. And then we'll use the rest of whatever's funded to do those. And then moving forward, any other that need to be replaced will have a solid basis.
But you're beholden to state contractors.
No, we're not. But we reach out to state contractors first because otherwise you don't have to draw bid specs. You're saving money on not having an engineer prepare a bid spec for you or hiring a big writing company.
John, it's not necessarily we're using state contractors, it's if their own state contract, it's a quicker resolution. And we will enjoy the rates that have been negotiated, but we don't have to do the other front end of the bid spec.
Yeah, it's faster, but you're paying $5,000 a window for the.
Right,
convenience.
that's
But in theory, that's already at an economy of
It's not like
scale.
it's at that.
In theory,
If we did our
it's a
own,
state
if
negotiated.
we
which
did
is
our
hardly
own
in theory.
bid, you're still gonna pay prevailing wage and you make $9,000 for it. You can do that exercise on,
I mean, window makes sense. That's what I'm before.
And that's something where unfortunately you and I think the same, like, oh, I'll do it.
Right? I mean,
I'll do it for $2,000. But
Generally, the state contracts are more economical to begin with.
yeah,
And then if you don't go with a state contract and you go out to bid or something like that, you have to, sometimes the state will require, and we haven't had this out yet, to show the savings of not doing.
All right.
Because you take away the economies of scale for everybody else, you're disadvantaging the rest of the state.
One last question. Where are we with that oil separator situation in the garage?
as per the engineering meeting on Wednesday, they're waiting, I think, for a check. They need a check for $1,100 to register the tank with DEP. We have to give them a check and he asked for something.
and there's a form that you sign, and they're
Right, sign
gonna
the
send
form.
everything to
Right.
DEP.
So that'll start that running. That's we have an oil water separator that was abandoned many, many years ago, the tank is still in the ground. In order for us to wash trucks, anything except salt, like we're allowed to wash off salt residue after storms, but technically washing our vehicles, we're not allowed to do unless we have a separation. So in the building, when it was built, they have linear drains. There was this tank was supposed to catch the oil. The water
None of us
was in
knew it
the
was
sewer
there.
system, but it's technically not working correctly. We haven't been cited, but something we're trying to rectify before it becomes an issue. But then this tank reared its ugly head. So if you have a tank in the ground, everybody's familiar. DEP gets involved. Now you have to test the soil. So our original quote, I think, for the pass-through system that we wanted to install was 120,000 maybe. That contractor was just going to dig that tank up and take it out because it was unregulated. Well, sure enough, we looked into it. It's a regulated tank, and now the number doubled at least. So we put away $300,000 just in case there's.
It's not like an insurance policy that we could have had or can have prospectively.
The tank was lost to history.
Yeah.
One day there was an inspector here from the DEP.
It was actually the right to know inspector.
Okay, they were hanging out, whatever, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, and said, "What is that pipe coming out the top of the building?" And we're, I don't know. It was so 50, 60 years ago, someone put that tank in the ground and lost the history, like I
So
said.
the tank itself had nothing in it.
So they said, "What's the pipe in the ground?" So they went over to look. And we discovered this.
So we can't do anything with that technically. It's still, if we have to, we have to. But again, we haven't been cited for it. We're trying to get out in front of it. So right now, that money is still in the account. Once this tank gets settled, then we can move forward with upgrading the system.
It's kind of like your question about what is it? It's kind of like in a restaurant when you have a
No, it wasn't
restaurant.
what is it, where are we at, like, are we putting
Oh.
that in?
The tank.
And he said no,
The tank, that part needs to get taken care of before we can do anything else.
Isn't there an irony to being allowed to wash the salt off the vehicles, yet the salt is what's thrown in the sea?
Yeah.
Sorry to be there.
But just super, this is a kind of
There's no
regular
rational-
question, but a process
Yeah,
question.
you're not wrong.
You hit there was a $3,000 increase for the Rose Garden Master Gardener, in there. I remember last time talking to you though, that the guy wasn't even returning your calls. Do we know that that's the price did he get back to you?
Yep, he sent his proposal for this year and he's basically raising his price 3% per year. Council, prior to my coming on board here, council had hired this guy to rejuvenate the Rose Garden. And it's funny because Christine brought it up to me this morning. She was like, I'm just thinking about things that we do that we should, that we do every year. And she goes, the Rose Garden. I said, yes, we do that every year because we've done it every year since I've been here. But the problem being that it's what happens is they paid 25 years ago to have somebody revamp the garden. It came out fabulously. He went away. It went to seed. Nobody is a rose expert on my staff. And the rose buddies who are the volunteers that help take care of it are not experts.
I know.
And so,
Those are residents?
yeah, so there's been $150,000 pumped into this in the last 10, 15 years. And
It's, I think, about 20,000 a year.
we had
5 years old.
We got it.
it was $100,000. Oh, well,
I did
but
the best 20 years to find the guy.
I was gonna say, but that went to. So that, and since I've been here, we paid
Being a
$30,000 a year to maintain that garden.
It started as free because of the bequeathing.
Right.
And now it's 33,000 a year. And it's a difficult position we're all in, because if we did let it go, that would be noticed. So,
The revenue part, we revamped this last year. The
Permits for the use of the bus?
The TJ, wedding pictures.
Yeah.
How much do we get versus
The expense.
2 Gs, maybe a year.
to pay $33,000 a year for a piece of Davis Johnson Park? We get $2,000.
Oh, and the revenue with that, I don't know. It was like 2 Gs last year.
All right, so it's 2,133 expense. So you're not even covering 10% on the.
I unfortunately don't have my phone, otherwise I would text Christine and ask if she can answer the question. We'll bring it in.
I mean, whatever the fee.
How many
was.
search?
I mean, the fee is not.
So, yeah.
It's almost
It's
double.
really, I didn't know about that.
All right.
But that's one of those driving factors, that things that we do all the time, but if we stop doing it,
Yeah,
it's
they're
gonna be,
enormously unpopular as well.
and then within 5 years, we're gonna spend that money
Why
again.
do you need such a degree of expertise?
To do
Roses are fickle.
They're different than regular flowers.
But like,
Also,
It's beautiful.
All right, let's take it, whoever wants to talk about roses could stay here. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we're gonna move on to capital.
you want to talk about roses?
Zach, you good with that?
You want to talk about oil or roses?
We can talk about roses if you want.
I don't know. Is there like a rose?
No, my guys do that. Those are.
What?
I let the bosses that walk out on.
It is.
Like that.
10:57.
They're, like, yeah, they're easier maintained, they're not. I mean, if you walk, we've got.
That sounds like.
Very special.
35.
It's a net zero.
35.
You've got funding.
The only reason it
All
actually,
colors.
all due respect to the expert, if it wasn't for that team of the Rose Buddies, that
Super. Well, they don't help us. So,
Cameras to do what?
well,
car accidents, vandalism, slip and falls, just to monitor the, yeah.
so it's the cameras that were colleges of Metro. Does the chief know, and is that, and he is going to be doing a bundle, as Susan knows, a camera order, is this in his?
It's not in his, no,
This
this is something big, but I will be utilizing his. That.
Okay.
So it'll, yes, this was in a previous budget and.
Yeah, thank you.
You're on,
W,
you're on,
right here,
His narrative.
yeah, I don't know if you guys.
Narrative capital fund, where is that?
just listen this.
No, it's at the end. It's at
Capital.
front, the back.
Capital improvement fund.
Oh,
So maybe one.
Where the capital fund.
page 39.
Oh,
Wait, the first thing on the capital budget for public works is an articulated load for $110,000.
No. They were looking at that,
We're
page
talking about-
39 in the.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay,
We're starting capital with DPW, so you can look
Okay.
at my stuff.
okay.
Sorry, jumping randomly. I don't have your books.
Just can we talk about those cameras super quick? Those were funded previously
39.
or no?
West.
it's going on.
They're actually wanting to use them for Rose Garden and works elsewhere, and now it has to put back in.
He's
that my
under
budget to use somewhere else. and now it has to go
39.
back in.
Okay, so
Yeah,
now,
he's on page 39.
Students 100% on board with this. This should be.
okay, that's what so Susan, just, I want to make sure that, I just want to make sure that money wise, you know, as we've been in contact, that since the chief is packaging all the camera order, bundling the camera order, that saves us money. Are these DPW camera orders in that, or is he doing, I just don't want him to be separate.
This was separate, but again, I'm using the same vendor, so I'll just touch base with the chief and make sure that I get my stuff involved with this.
Tagged on.
Well, right, but not to the, because the chief's cameras get tied up with Bergen County prosecutors. Well,
Yeah, he's,
you don't want to be tied up with
no,
that.
I just want the vendor and the cost of the equipment and the installations.
Right.
Make sure.
I used him-
Nature Center.
To do repairs at the DPW building,
fine.
and he's extremely reasonable.
Okay.
All right, so
I just wanted to make sure we weren't paying more, because I know that there are two projects, I understand, but I know that the chief was talking about, right, two different initial costs and bids and all that, because the chief was better at this year, he said, than, because now that he's done it
Yeah, of
before with the
course,
teen
right.
center, he knows what to do, so I
Right.
just wanted to make that much.
Yes, I know.
The police, I know.
Hold on, but who's got the floor? Go ahead.
I know the police aren't here yet, but their cameras, is that for, what is that meant to be for?
The cameras,
Yeah.
those are the flavor cameras that go up in different streets.
So we're putting it out in the public.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
And that, because we've never discussed that at the council meetings.
Wait.
So because, no, just, I just wanted to make.
Yeah, right, he's expanding, he's continuing
I
expansion.
think that should be brought up in the council.
That we're expanding cameras?
Yeah, well, we'll be
Yeah,
talking about the watches here.
Yes, because I think the community
People want
might
another
want to know, what the story is and be able to respond about it before it gets done. But anyway.
80% of cameras
I
are
have
at the
40
police
files, but we were allocated
These
37.
cameras all reading for.
Like I said, to monitor to basically safety, falls, car accidents, which we have all kinds of property damage, things like that.
Around the DPW building.
And they will be beamed to the DPW, my system, so that I can keep an eye on what's going on down there.
$20,000.
Right.
Yes. All right, number two, DPW replace top kick 6.8. Forget about the word top kick. I should have taken that out. That's the type of truck that we're replacing. We're not replacing it with another one because they don't make it. So a lot of this stuff you guys have seen before. It is what it is. We do what we can. So this is one of our plow trucks. It doesn't do much else but plow. Its replacement would be stripped down, so to speak. We're not gonna put a hook lift on it and all that other stuff. So we're gonna save some money on that. These replace the current truck that we have out there. It's just not worthy anymore. Having trouble getting parts for it.
So these replacement trucks, they call T-rolls.
They,
Like
to a point, yes, to a point. I'm getting away from buying any more
specialized.
hook lifts. The hook lifts is the big. It's an expense we don't need. We have enough hook lifts. We have 4 hook lifts right now. We have 2 roll-offs. We don't need any more hook lifts. I don't have enough drivers to put all of them on the road at the same time anyway. So no, they're going to be more dump truck type.
Which one is it?
Flatbeds, or I can even strip them down, just put the salter on it alone.
Okay, I see, got it.
I'm having chassis.
Sterling is out.
And really tough.
We should, there's 4 trucks that you're asking for.
Okay.
If you could help us go from number 1 to number 4, such that when we look at the broader budget, we understand what that
The
is.
Sterling is out,
That's a
just so you
priority
know.
ranking of the
Just so you know, the Sterling is already out.
Sterling is already out.
What does that mean? Number 8 is.
Out as in removed?
Yes,
Is the recommended. Is
yeah, it's not recommended, so there's 3, to Adam's question, there's 3 that are left. So he's already taken 1 out.
Right, so that is a serious recommendation, the top there, the truck 6.8 needs to be replaced.
Which one, top kick is number 1?
Yes.
Is that the 350?
We're down to
No.
300.
300? Okay.
Okay, so that's number 1.
All right, next is the 1987 Mack Packer truck.
350, that's number 2.
Right.
What you guys keep saying 350?
Money wise.
It's
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a big.
So seriously, you said 350, I'm thinking F350.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know the mile numbers, like, only by the dollar.
I'm sorry, that's why I said no.
And you have a dump truck and an articulated loader.
You guys are jumping around on me. My next is, if we just go through mine,
Looking at his narrative.
yeah, I only had 3 trucks in here for
Yeah,
purchase.
3 trucks.
I had 3 and 1 was removed by action.
Actually, in order in the narrative.
Well, sorry, maybe so an articulated loader, you're not cool calling a truck, but it's over 100,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Mack Packer truck, again, it's a 1987. It doesn't owe us a nickel. We still use it for leaves. It's, it still rolls, but same thing, it becomes a question of getting parts for them. Everything now is drive-by-wire, computers, and, getting mechanical parts are tougher and tougher as time goes on.
Given that this has been on the road since 1987, it suggests there may be a used market for some of these things.
And not for nothing, we bought it used.
87?
No, after that, it's got a history, this truck, unfortunately.
So is it possible to feel these trucks as ones at 350 do it in, different price?
Is it possible? Yes, but it becomes, the gamble of.
Yeah, it's
buying
pretty
white
easy to
elephant.
watch.
Yeah, I worked in another town. We bought a crane carrier garbage truck for $50,000 from another borough. And it was the worst $50,000.
Yeah, they sold to their liability.
Yeah, it cost us 200 at the end of the day. But is it possible? Yes. Is it possible sometimes to utilize different bodies? You'll see that in my number 4 in my narrative, replace the truck body on 617. The truck itself is in great shape, even though it's 21 years of age. The body is rotting off. Let's get the body off of it. Let's redo it. We'll get another 10 years at least out of this truck.
So I know that the Ford F-150 is electrified. Is any of, are any of these trucks available electric? I mean, I remember leaving the municipality being impressed with how.
The Packer truck is available electric, but, Bergenfield was supposed to get two of them. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they put money aside, couldn't get the delivery of them, and now the prices have jumped $100,000, and the vendor is looking for them to pay the difference, so they're still fighting for it. Supply and demand, Jersey City's got some, I mean, I wouldn't,
We have charging.
we have charging, but we have charging for downtown, charging.
Yeah, we're charging for the trucks are gonna be different than for cars.
Yeah, I know, but but that's not a challenge for us as we've spoken
We're charging not a
about
challenge, right?
putting it to the side of the building and then we put
Right.
in like a level two does.
I don't know, I'm sure the electric cost is going to exceed $400,000 for the unit itself. As far as the charger for it goes, I'm not sure. Maintenance costs, I'm not well versed in electric vehicles. It's
Only in EV, you don't want to be subject to blackouts. The time you need these trucks are bad times. The time that you're more susceptible to having a downed electrical event are simultaneous with that.
Oh, I think that's unlikely. I mean, when we're talking, they would be brought in at night and charged.
I know in EV and I wake up in snowstorms and my garage powers out, I'm screwed.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I have an EV as well. I've never, I'm surprised that.
for the purposes of this one, I would just say that, yeah, the number that I have for this is not, it's guaranteed to be $100,000 more.
It's like JC has recycling.
Like, just talking about number 3 on your list.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, but we are always told by the emergency vehicles that we're never allowed to do it
It's
that.
a snow plow. Right. Electric, because, like you said, power.
So a truck packer
6 hours out of
is,
snow with a rechargeable snow plow.
The Packer just a garbage truck.
It's a garbage truck.
A garbage truck,
Stuff
but
in
it's a
it.
recycling. We don't do garbage, it's a recycling truck.
right,
It looks like a garbage truck.
right. And so back to my point is you're saying it is available as an electric, it's not an emergency vehicle. But you don't have those numbers.
I don't have EV numbers, no, I did not.
I would be interested in him at least finding out
You can get a number, sure.
what the number is, because we know other communities are doing it. Not
You get a number on it.
loads. Okay,
And also the availability of the unit, right?
Yeah, again, because the bigger cities will get them way before smaller communities. Yeah. I can ask that question, but again, there's more that goes into it than just buying the truck.
Mike promised to let me aside the truck.
I was thinking, I see the man getting a fleet of Teslas. It's all good.
So number 4, I kind of really,
Anyone at Tenafly?
we're just replacing the body on the
They
truck.
haven't.
right.
No,
That was your time. People have ordered that, but they're not.
Number 5 on my list, DPW garage tool purchase. Basically, we have a mechanic shop that's on one side of the yard, and on the other side of the yard, we have 16 bays where we have benches, we do chains, we do tires if we have to, fuel in the trucks, minor repairs and things. We just need some tools on the other side, so you're not, forgot the 1/2-inch ratchet, I gotta walk across the yard and go get another one. Let's put a toolbox in here where we can just reach in here and get it.
But did you have a question?
This kind of, you're trying to get, we've done this before, for actual purchase, in previous years.
We have done tool purchases for the mechanical. This is the other side of the garage. And that's, I mean, that comes up. There's gonna be more in here that you're gonna see garage. Things break, things go bad, you know what I mean?
No, of course, there's constant,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, no, this is a separate other side of the yard. New climber for Froggy Park. This had gotten kicked around last year when we had to replace the spinner. So we got a price on this, and Jamie Cannon says there's room in the park. I say there's room in the park. That's for discussion.
But we want to put that in, take that in open space. You need to appropriate, Susan, you need to appropriate that into the capital. We're talking about the Froggy Park,
No, that's going in open space.
so that has to go, you will appropriate that into this budget?
You put it in the budget, but then we don't put it into capital. We could put it into capital, but for that amount of money, we're just gonna pull it right from open space. And by the way, I looked up open space, we have 3.1 million.
Good, that's good. So for the $18,000, then, do we need to do ordinances on that after the budget is done, or resolution?
I could do for 20-something thousand, 20-something thousand. I could just do a resolution, because now the auditors are inside anything under 50.
So does that have to be done after budget's approved?
Tomorrow.
You could do it at any time, because the money is there, so we could
Say
do,
it again, Dan.
an ordinance, 2 readings, we'll take it right from open.
Yeah, let's get it done.
3.1 says as of Q4 last year.
As of right now.
Right.
Go ahead, Michael.
Up to number 7, that's the articulated loader. Again, it's a mid-size unit. It's smaller than anything that we currently have at DPW. We get tractor trailer deliveries regularly. This is one of the reasons. We get forks on a big loader, and we need 2 guys, an operator and somebody watching them, because the loader's so big, you can't see the tips of the forks. So just for moving equipment around in the yard, and it's a multi-purpose. Forget, did I put down what we're getting on there? No. Various attachments. There's over 100 attachments that we can purchase eventually to put this on. Clarkstown, New York uses them. They love them. I know some private companies that we have relationships with that have bought 1 and 2 of them because their crews fight over them. You can use them for tree work. You can use them for parks. You can use them for snow removal. Small concrete job. But it's got 100 different uses. So again, as opposed to rolling out with a backhoe or an existing loader, which is overkill usually. So the Sterling dump came off the list. Ground cover mats, number 9 on my list. So we can use those in the parks and on the tree truck. Basically, the tree truck is my main concern. Sometimes we have to get in on people's front lawns to facilitate removals, things like that, as opposed to rolling in there, crushing their front lawn, sidewalks, whatever. You put these mats down, they attenuate the weight, and you don't get the damage to the properties. You lay them down. They're basically the size of plywood, 4x8 sheets. They go underneath the wheels. We back in, set up, we do what we have to do. We roll back in.
I just have a question, because I know obviously prices go up every year, but I know I've been on the council where, we've said, okay, where the department isn't gonna get all of the trucks that they request. Is that the type of thing this year where are these all emergency situations?
It's not an emergency. I mean, if I looked at all this, it's my capital. It's a request list of things that would help us to work more efficiently or replace aging equipment. So, I mean, none of it would count as an emergency. If it was an emergency, I'd be like, we've got to do it. This is all subject to your, purview and what you guys decide on.
You have tow trucks 1 and 2 that they, top kit that's no longer made, and truck packer.
Yeah, and again, these budgets, it's just, some more equipment is aging. You guys gave us a new Packer truck last year, the budget. We haven't been able to replace it yet. But
we didn't give it to you, the residents did.
Yeah, and that was in 1986.
Right.
So now this is 1987, we're going, to go on. And again, we use these things for myriad different uses. We pick up is the biggest with Packer trucks, that and recycling. So, what's my next? Thermoplastic line striping. That's something I really would put in there. We have paint machines that put down latex paint with glass beads, and it's really hot when you put it down. 6, 8, 9 months later, maybe a plow situation later, It's not shiny and new like it used to be where it's actually.
So what was
Yeah,
it? What was it?
The thermoplast is, they actually bring a company in and they put it all together. It's almost like a glue. It's fixed up, the new stripe.
Yeah, and it stays bright and you're
It's,
good?
yeah, and it then, so
And we have it on our thing to do, I know, so last season for downtown, the residents were asked for clearer crosswalks and you said, you know, once the weather gets better, you can
Yes.
do it back then.
we'll
do it this
yeah,
spring.
we'll jump in there, but again, these are some of the things where, the mayor brought it up in the engineering meeting on Wednesday, like, the intersection of Railroad and Washington.
Yes, yes.
That's bad, like, I wouldn't throw thermostriping down there if we're gonna have to dig up that intersection.
Well, are we doing that this year, by the way? That's a
That's,
disaster over there.
that wasn't in our original.
Oh, so if you're doing more roadways.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, again, and you guys know that if the bids come in good for the asphalt,
Right.
we'll have money left over in our requests. That could be something
Oh,
that,
that's right, because it's we talked about this, the co-op doesn't do the ripping up of the old,
concrete and all that,
Yeah.
we would have to, but
those pavers.
then we could figure out how to,
Yeah.
You know, some of us be careful, but I just realized we do it, and it's, I believe it's an and. But everything we do is mostly residential streets, like we put, you know, another $1.5 million into residential streets. Are we doing enough for our major streets, like Railroad, Washington, South Summit, River Edge Road? You know, the roads that are
Right.
non-residential.
River Edge Road is county.
Right.
River Edge Road is county, and just so you know, Engle Street from the Englewood border
Yeah.
to Westervelt,
Yeah.
down Westervelt,
Yeah.
out to Dean Drive, that's all county, and that's on this
What
year's
about
list.
this? Are we good with?
Yeah, I mean,
good with Washington?
Dean and county have been done in the past few years.
But what about Washington?
We
Railroad?
haven't done Washington in a long time.
We had a discussion, Andy and I had a discussion originally about Railroad Avenue, what was my first,
Yeah.
Yeah.
going back 2 years ago. And it was, well, maybe, you know, CDBG grant or something like that, but it's not gonna work out, kind of why we're too important. There's not enough.
Maybe we have to put money into it.
Well, yeah, but that's, you know, moving forward, that's just, I put my list together that I submit to Andy based on the 2019 roadway program. So we rated every road in town back then.
Are the downtown roads on that ABCD list?
They are on that list and they're not in the, they haven't made my list yet. And that's what I do. I go back to that because we paid for that.
The engineering report.
Yeah, we paid for that. and-
That's in our roadmap.
Andy was here last week. He said he's gonna get us a new one in the next couple of months.
Right, so basically that'll show all the roads that we knocked off already that are now green.
Who owns Ingles from Highwood to East Cliff?
From Highway to East Clinton, that is on our DOT list to be 2024 DOT, I believe, so it was get done in 2025.
So like, that's right, not the patch?
Yeah. So we did last year, we did from Highwood to Highwood.
Fabulous, and it stops.
Right, this year is a Highwood Avenue, we're doing Highwood from Teckening down to Hillside.
Right.
Next year will be Engle from Highwood to Clinton. We already did from Westervelt to Clinton.
Yeah.
And the county is doing from Englewood to Westervelt. So Engle Street will be 100% done by 2025.
And Highwood's also good.
And Highwood is getting, one is getting done this year and the next one will get done in
So
2020.
John, just to put it in perspective. For the past 4 years, we spent about $1 million on roads, maybe $1.5 million with county money coming in and stuff like that. And previously, the borough was spending about 125 to 150,000 a year on roads. So we upped the ante over the past few years to catch up. So if in your mind you're thinking perhaps maybe we should be doing more, I just want to give you the context of we're already, 8 to 10x already.
Right, no, appreciate that, but I also think Adam's right about downtown.
He's 100%, yeah, of course.
So all things to discuss.
And the previous concept was, with the engineering report Mike and Adam were talking about, is let's pave the worst roads first and work our way, up sort of thing, which is what we've been generally following.
And maybe it's just a function of, again, it could be the ABC, the green, yellow, red. Or it's also could be, I'm making this number up, 80% of the money goes towards like residential streets.
Right.
And 20% should go to
Put it in
business
such
streets.
digital where.
I just used the wrong word.
Yeah.
but Washington Railroad, South Summit, Piermont.
Right, and we previously have not calculated that way. We took the four quadrants of the town, and everybody got 25% of the money, generally. So
Is
that's,
it ever in?
what?
Is it ever in the?
I mean, it's a valid point, you know, that's, yeah. Okay, all right, let's get refocused, guys. Michael, go ahead.
Right, so the thermoplastic, that would be in conjunction between the chief and, the traffic sergeant and the DPW, figure where we're gonna put those areas. That's, I have the number. I got a price of, I think, $2,800 to do the intersection of Post Avenue and Knickerbocker Road. Probably something like that, depending on what we have to do. You know, if you're doing the wide striping, it takes up more money. Do the thin striping, it's, you know.
Let's do it a different way instead of going one by one. Are there any questions for Mike on the capital budget?
He's got a good
I'll
question.
save you some time.
Jamie, go ahead. All right, guys, Jamie's at the floor.
Which question? Well, the locker?
Yeah.
Oh, no, so
It's a good idea.
when we're talking about the locker, if we're also discussing like what we're doing with the leaves in the next few, like, I don't know if we should be spending money on a truck that takes leaves. If we are starting to talk about the truck, like, we might want a different truck or a different process, so maybe we hold off on anything that collects leaves.
On recycling, we do commercial pickups, which is, I think it's 20% of our pickups for the year is commercial. That truck would also be doing it. So every Monday, that truck would roll out, pick up commercial recycling down there.
So it's not a leaf truck.
It's not just a leaf truck, but it would get, we use them for leaf.
But could you want cheaper one for just the recycling? I mean, it's interesting. We have a massive problem at the leaf level, all right? We don't know how we're gonna solve it.
Right.
Why sink 350 into something that needs to be on the resale market for the event that it wasn't there? Because if you're using it for recycling, is there something cheaper to buy for that recycling?
But you're still gonna need the package truck. Still need the package,
So no matter what.
no matter what. Even if it's only rolling once a week, you still gotta pick up the commercial recycling unless council's ready to say, we're not picking commercial recycling up. It's very unpopular. That's an additional tax. That's been discussed since I first came on board. In 2020, we brought that up. We said, what about abandoning commercial recycling?
Defining what is the definition of commercial recycling?
That means now anybody downtown that we're picking up, plus all the schools.
Put in the dumpsters and
Any of the dumpsters are now on you to get, and you gotta get rid of your own stuff now. So the shop owners,
And what do other towns do?
Yeah, what's it?
I know Bergenfield picks up cardboard only.
Waste disposal.
Teaneck, it's the business owners, the onus is on them for those.
I pick my own, in my day job, I pick my own,
Understood. I didn't mean to throw that monkey wrench in, but in response to the question, that would be your option. If you don't want to pay $350,000 on a package truck, then we need to start moving towards privatizing downtown pickups.
What, back of the envelope, what does it cost the borough to pick up commercial cardboard and garbage and recycling?
Well, 350 for the investment.
Yeah.
Right, but understood, I'm on an operating level,
We do the garbage,
because that,
commercial garbage, right? And the recycling
our commercial garbage is picked up as part of our total contract,
garbage, right?
The commercial garbage.
yeah, or is that private?
That's private.
That's private, but the recycling, we pick up,
The recycling we pick up.
okay.
So there's certain locations that they do pick up. We'd have to go to the vendor to find out exactly which ones. If you go back there and you see Waste Industries name on it, then they're picking that one up. But it's not, I don't think it's everybody down. No, it can't. Because I still have people that put their stuff out at the street for me to pick up. So if the town was already paying for it, they would.
Wow, interesting.
I gotta ask Glenn about, I can contact Glenn about that.
any other questions for Mike on capital?
Various drainage. Well,
We all know we have flooding issues in town. Some have worse problems than others, some that have problems that we could alleviate some of the problem simply by cleaning pipes. We've got We've got some pipes that we can't get through.
I thought we had, we gotten a camera to kind of visualize.
Yeah,
But
but
we never put it.
you can't get through the camera, and once the camera's underwater, it doesn't see anything anyway.
So,
And I'm talking 36-inch pipes, stuff that's beyond the scope of what
Do you never go away the water?
it works, it filters through slowly. The one instance where
Is
one
it
that
backed up?
I can point to right now is Westervelt. It goes behind along Franklin.
Yeah.
And it becomes Franklin Creek, which eventually becomes the downtown Colton. It's 36-inch pipes that are packed solid.
That's cool.
So we brought in a vendor, we got prices. Most of the prices were in the 300+ range. So we got a guy that said, I could do this for $43.95.
That's my guy.
And that's my guy. And he was unsuccessful in the lease. We're now fighting with him about paying him because he did nothing.
Okay.
So that's an option. Again, in our engineering meeting, it was discussed that Colliers is going to be authorized or the discussion is out there for them to start doing the upgrades to the stormwater mapping.
yeah,
Which would take into effect that it's not practical solutions now. We're talking putting it on paper and saying, okay, you got a 12-inch pipe. Would it pay, the mayor said, to replace it with a 15 or an 18-inch pipe? Those are calculations that have to be done. Right now, what I'm talking about doing is simply adding holding capacity to the existing pipes that we have because they're so, if you got a 36-inch pipe, you hold a lot of water. But if it's 90% filled, you hold way less water and you're backing up upstream.
So do we know what that is, or what the?
We actually don't
We don't
because
really?
short of me putting a frogman in there.
It was recommended as zero, right?
It's recommended.
Oh, yeah.
Froggy? You talking about Froggy Bar?
Without the drainage issues.
All right, so
You need more money than $50,000 for drainage issues.
again, I'm not, to address what I'm talking about, that's not gonna work.
Or would it be just, you do up to the 50 and then.
And you're not, again, what I tried to get done for 43,000, it didn't work.
Oh, I see.
And so, while we're talking about this particular,
I'm sorry, say it again?
No, it's in here at 50.
That would, maybe that's recommendation from.
No, it started out as 50 and recommended as 50.
I bet it's 400.
Yeah, I have 400,000.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sorry.
400,000.
Okay, I was like, what?
No, sorry.
No, so that's better, that's a good point, various drainage districts of 400,000. That's not your,
We received original quotes
Yes.
over 300,000. So yeah, that's my number.
that's your.
That's my number to say, if we wanted to do, and that was, I'll tell you exactly where it was. It was where I just described, with West Develop. Going to the Franklin opening. There's an issue with that I'll revisit. It was Sunnyside Park. From the park out to the outfall, close to underneath by Windsor and going towards Varsity. And then the third spot was up by Old Smith and Mountain. There's a culvert that goes underneath the road there that is partially blocked as well, which increases flooding issues upstream. And what
this
happened,
400,000 would cover all this you're talking about.
that,
Right.
our original.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our original quotes were for those three locations in excess of $300,000 from United Water. So we would be in the $300,000 to $400,000 for those three locations.
So that doesn't include Walnut.
No, nothing on Walnut.
Can we split that further so you just do one of those?
If you wrote, I mean, that's up to you. I mean,
Do you think it would be effective in terms of, can we do it siloed?
Or to just push it down the line and stop.
Before we answer that question, I just want to throw some stuff out in terms of what's going on with this water, which is falling way too fast and too much at once, right? So what is not included here or proposed is the Walnut Park area, which just becomes a lake when it rains. The Overpet Creek, in certain areas of Overpet Creek that we're starting to have conversations about buying houses, and tearing them down, so that the water has someplace to go, using Blue Acres money. That also doesn't include yet Andy, the engineer, is putting together the quarterly maintenance plan for the Bliss Avenue Bridge for cleaning out every quarter, 1,000 feet upstream of the overpack. Right, so there's a lot of this stuff coming to the surface, and also up on East Clinton, all the way up by the,
By Essex.
by Essex, underground has to be cleaned out in order to dump water into the nature center.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, the potential for, I mean, we should probably just see how it works, you know, in the beginning and then kind of roll it out as time goes on, so it'll clear it off, you know.
So by that token, I would go out and break it up. I'll bring them back in and say, here, break it up, and then
Yeah.
you can have another.
No,
debate
so
on
so
that.
the breakup, I'm saying, should be in the budget, you know, so not do the whole capital, you know,
Yeah.
400,000 in the capital. Right?
Again, open to your guys' discussions and approvals, so.
So as long as we do like 150, let's say, and we do,
Well, maybe 2 out of 3.
right, something like that, you know.
Plus, just, Manu, I just want to throw out there also, we're in the midst.
Because there's more, I mean, that's the
Yeah,
problem,
well,
is, you know.
Yeah.
But my point is, guys, listen up. We're also in the midst of our first lawsuit up on
Churchill.
over water issues with the residents. So this stuff is like, it's gonna be a preeminent issue going forward.
Yeah, it's gonna be circulating.
What?
I would have had this year.
That we didn't clean out the drainage ditches and his garage flooded. This garage is below street level. And so, you know, the whole gravity thing, but you know, that's a whole.
Hence the new ordinance to allow for those to be filled in and.
Well, there's another thing. What's working its way through the planning board right now is people who have garages that are below grade. We want to allow them to block those up and not have to have a garage sort of thing. Right.
If I can maybe, I'm gonna take a little bit, a jump off point from what Danu was saying. Perhaps, and it's kind of what you were just informing us about, kind of back in the envelope way. What about if we have that holistic budgetary view of water issues, where it includes what Mike's asked for, it includes these other departments, what the borough engineers going to require. So we actually know, it's more honest to us as representatives about what the cost of this is to us every year. You know, because the 400,000 probably quite justified, but we just have to have a much better view of 400,000 plus this, plus that, which all water issues. So it's like, oh my gosh, we're spending $1.5 million on water issues, you know, just so we know it.
Okay, so what I'm going to suggest to the council then, and David, let's talk to Andy Hippolyte, is let's have him put a report together on, because Michael and I are very much involved with Andy on all the water issues in town, all the different locations. And so we can have him put a list together so the council understands it. But the solution to these based on, again, back of the envelope,
Who are you speaking about?
Andy Hippolyte, Michael and I.
Oh,
Yeah, so, but we've never told Andy to make, you know, a list like, so we'll have him put a list together with top level solutions.
Yeah.
But you're talking about $10 or $15 million worth of problems,
Yeah.
not including buying of the homes.
What we're gonna do here,
and our strategy.
I just wanted to say one
Fair
thing,
enough.
that my understanding of the problem is, so we also had this culvert project, the culvert mapping done last year. Is that what's related to what he's
Yes,
asking for?
it's related, and the reason, and you correct me if I'm wrong, with all the culverts, all the storm sewers we have around town, we really don't have a handle on 100% of what we have and the sizes of everything. So that whole system is going to map, so we know, well, do we have a 12-inch pipe? And do we need a 20-inch, or do we already have a 20 and we need a 40? But go ahead, Mike.
We have a lot of the pipe sizes already. It's the inverse.
Right.
Things like meaning depth and things like that need to be fleshed out. Again, upsizing pipes is an idea, but our main problem, and Mayor has already taken this to another level, is the Tennakill Brook, the Overpeck Creek, and all their tributaries are filled in all the time between residents building out their yards, sediment building up and all that. Where the Tennakill Creek used to be 20 feet wide and 8 feet deep, it's now in some spots 4 feet wide and 2 feet deep. There's nowhere for the water to go. Our system was built 100 years ago. And it was built for 100-year ago storms and amount of water. And it's just, they're two different animals now, and it doesn't have anywhere to go. We could redo all our pipes, clean all our pipes, have the best pipes in the world. When they hit these other waterways, they have nowhere to go. It's a regional problem that the mayor has actually reached out already and is trying to work with the neighboring.
No, we're gonna have another conversation.
So,
But I think you understand what I'm saying. Give everybody the broad picture view. What is the cost of let's call it what is climate change to us as taxpayers? And just so we know what we're dealing with and what we can appropriate.
Yeah, we can put that together.
And do we have it separated, like you do the roads, like red light, yellow light, green
No,
light?
so
like,
you know,
we
it's
order all-
interesting you said that. So I'm gonna give you, it's just because we're talking about it quick. So when I say it's too much rain is falling in a short period of time, none of the systems any of these towns around here have, it's not just Tenafly, are capable of handling the water. Okay, so we have residents who live near the nature center, downhill of the nature center, okay? When it rains too much, we get a lot of those residents feel that it's the pond and the small brook are causing the problem with flooding in their neighborhood, okay? If you're in another section of town, okay, you've got neighbors who think the cause of it is because there's new construction 2 blocks away, right? We've got that going on the west side. And then we have some residents who live near Knickerbocker Country Club who feel that when it rains heavily, the cause of the problem is there's too much grass and woods behind their houses. So all the people's feelings are diametrically opposed to each other and to the reality of what's going on. And if we have a 12-inch pipe in Tenafly and we want to make it 20 inches, we can do that. But if Englewood only has a 20-inch
Right.
pipe, when it rains, the pipe's energized and the roads will blow up.
And no matter what we do on our side, if people don't help us
Yeah.
in front of us and behind us,
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
it's.
That's what we're trying
So
to.
here's a question for you, on a rural level, on a county level, on a state level. On a municipal bond, Susan, on a municipal bond basis, do people differentiate among green bonds and non-green bonds? And can we issue a cheap green bond?
I don't know what a green
A
bond.
green bond is something that's
Environmentally
environmentally friendly, and I mean, having worked at a bank, if you say it's a green deal, the approval process is different, the rates are different, everything is cheaper, like, so.
So,
I haven't really.
so before she
looked at
answers that
that.
question, so municipal Tenafly or Presskill, we can't do this alone. So the state is asking us to form a stormwater utility. And that's in the conversation mode. And they really want it to be controlled by the county, because then you have an authority that's able to say, okay, we need a 30-inch pipe on County Road for 12 miles. Right? And that's the road we're going down. And we're stumbling forward on that as a county right now.
So a green bond county level.
And I'm sure that's
something that
that's-
happens, yeah,
correct.
that's so much cheaper, it's
Correct.
just a whole different one.
Okay, so what else do we have? This was supposed to be a whole, borough, capital budget.
We've got 11 minutes.
First 45 minutes is public, work. So any other questions for Mike on, capital? Okay, cool.
Michael, you're welcome to stay for the next 11 minutes.
Can I just, I need to throw a hand grenade there.
But let's do it.
Complex roof repairs.
Let it rain.
So this is to move forward from, and unfortunately, the library, the most recent library roofing project is a disaster. Everybody knows what's going on there, but this was to move forward. From the library coming this way up until this area out here was a $500,000.
I think we're gonna talk, sorry, you weren't here in the beginning, when we had a library discussion, we spoke about what I believe is the need for a new municipal complex. I hate to be spending $500,000 here or $500,000 here for literally, we all know this is a disgustingly old building that needs to be replaced, so you're literally throwing good money after bad money. We just have to figure out, can we do it, can we afford it, and how long it'll take, but I hate to be.
That's right, but put a giant line through the 500,000 then, because I think that was.
Yeah, that's what we have to talk about as council.
But there is then put a $10,000 placeholder in there for the repair over the children's room that didn't get addressed in the previous library repair.
Okay, let's do that.
We need more.
Yes, that was, and that, the library went out and brought in an independent contractor and provided us with a study and the price.
Was that Iovine?
No, I believe it was a contractor, CRS.
CRS roofing systems?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
So I know we only have 10 minutes left. We're obviously not gonna be able to talk about individual items. What I do think we need to talk about though is what is the size of the capital budget we want to put forward and what that would look like? Right now, roughly, Susan and team are proposing about $4 million of capital. Yeah, so about $4 million of capital. The question is, should it be 2? Should it be 6? And then that will help us understand either do we have to be more aggressive to take stuff out, and then equally, let's at least get on the table so we have it for the next meeting. Is there anything missing from this budget that we want to put? So those are 2 things.
So,
4.1 million absent open spaces out there.
quick one question, Susan. How much debt are we retiring this year?
So I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I have to wait for the AFS, the annual financial statement, which the auditors did not give me yet. Sometimes we pay down debt, like we did last year in the budget. Those are the tweaking numbers towards the end. So,
So you
I
don't,
mean, I have a debt schedule from last year. I could go around and get, and tell you how much.
no, wait a minute.
We paid down.
Okay, we can answer.
So we
that.
paid a couple $1 million in principal, and then the interest was under that. We could look in here. We could look in our debt.
Because we need to know what that is, as part of.
Okay, so we'll go under debt service, and you'll see the debt that we paid down. We paid down in one of the bonds, $2,025,000. And then there's interest on that. And the principal we paid down on one note last year was about 340,000.
Yeah.
So we paid down 2.3.
Yeah.
2.3. So we're talking about a 1.7 increase
1.7 increase in.
in debt, right? So we paid down 2.3, right? We paid down 2.3 this year, right? We're talking about a $4 million capital budget that we're gonna borrow 95% of the money for. So we'll be on top of where we are, 1.7 million.
Okay, but we have to add,
So we'll
because
have this conversation.
I'm gonna be borrowing for a note again this year. Every year I borrow. So then you don't pay down principal on notes until the 3rd anniversary date. So,
But you're rolling the note.
well, you roll it. That's why we have a principal note payment in here. We roll it until we bond. So then you have to pay the interest. So the interest on notes that we aren't paying, we're paying, okay, it's a little complicated. You have bond anticipation notes, which are temporary notes.
Prior to issuance.
Right, then you would issue the bonds. So right now, we have notes that we're paying interest on, and the interest is about over $500,000. Then we have notes that we had hit the 3rd anniversary date, and that's the 300 and something. And then we have principal payments on bonds of over
So let's do
200
that.
million.
But the notes are IOs, and then you go to an IOP, an interest and principal structure on the debt. So the question is, how long can you roll notes in a high
Roll
environment
notes
without paying down
for
principal?
10.
So you want to finance it in a less.
So notes can be rolled for 10 years, but you have to start paying principal on the notes on the 3rd anniversary.
Okay, but you get 3 years free ride on IO.
2 years, the 3rd anniversary. Well,
But
you
the debt's
don't
already
pay
on our
3
books.
years. Yeah,
So we're rolling, it's already on the books, it's not new debt.
So let's
but
get.
just so you know, one note,
Principal either.
one
Oh,
note
short-term
that
debt.
we're rolling is the
Status quo.
3.5 million for the FEMA one we took out, which will be reimbursed by us, not us, by FEMA, but I don't know when.
Right, so
One is
let's have a new bridge that we had to rebuild. So FEMA doesn't give a municipality a check and say, hey, go build your
We're
stuff.
waiting for $2 million.
Because we're gonna go out and buy
Well,
different
maybe
airplane,
one.
right? So we float a bond, we do it, then they reimburse us.
well, we're
Pay the
floating it
interest on the
back.
bond.
We pay you.
Yeah.
Pay the interest on the bond and pay the debt on the.
It's a,
Okay.
it's a note, right?
It's
a note. It's a note.
And so when FEMA reimburses us, that money is required to pay down that debt,
We're
correct?
gonna pay down the debt when
Right.
FEMA reimburses.
Makes sense.
So we're never gonna bond for that.
Right.
Right.
But that money's outside, that money's, it's not quite off balance sheet right now,
Yeah.
but it is, right.
So we'll get from, Susan will get for us
A debt schedule.
the debt schedule, retirement, so we have a sense of where we are, and then, I would propose, could we have, what would it look like if we added another million? What would it be if we subtracted a million?
Okay, so I could play around with that. So just so you know, when you add money to the budget, right? Is when we bond, then that'll increase the principal, right? There's heavy duty fees associated with bonding, it costs about 40 to 50,000 to bond. With auditing fees, bond counsel fees.
So you want to do it sizable
Financial
enough, you wouldn't bond for.
You
50
warehouse until you turn.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
So normally we were bonding for less than 10 million, it's gonna be over that because our capital projects have increased more rapidly. We used to do 2.5 to 3 million to 3.5 million in projects. Now we're going a little higher than that.
Are the bonding fees basis points on notional or are they fixed fees?
They're on the notes. The fees are associated with the notes,
The size of the
the
note?
size of the notes. And some are
Like
paid.
$1 billion versus $100,000. It's the same $50,000.
No, you pay more
For the billion.
yeah. And then
What is it
So-
per thousand, is it?
well, it depends on the fees that they have
Yeah.
to engage with us. And then we pay a financial advisor. That's what now they all want us to have as a financial
Sure.
advisor.
They-
That's
they
generally,
state.
yeah, that's generally under 10,000.
State legislators not
Yeah.
here.
That's usually under 10,000. They have to pay bond counsel and what, so that comes out to about a $50,000 bill. But I build it into our account.
Yeah.
And then, let me think, and then there's bank qualified notes. I don't know if the legislation gets changed on that. So I think there was, I forget if it was under 10 million is bank qualified. I don't know if it goes over. So it could be the other way around. It's probably under. And then it's just every time you borrow, it does affect the capital. But what was good at one point is we drop off in a bond and then we would do a bond and it would be neutral to the budget. That's not gonna happen.
For staff, did the desk prepare to answer your questions? Is there a consensus or a wish list that you want us to zero in on for numbers?
On how big the capital budget should be?
Yes.
I think I don't know about what everyone thinks. I think we're mostly there. I mean,
Okay.
I have a couple ideas. It's 100, 200,000. I don't even have $1 million with ideas.
Okay.
I think what we do have to talk about as a team, and I don't understand how we would pay for it. Again, there are bigger things that have to happen at some point. We need a new municipal complex. Again, I'm just one of 6. I would like some sort of community center rec center. I think at some point we have to fix the senior center. Now, all those are 3. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 others. All of those, though, we could just pay for ourselves completely. Just, have Mike pay for it out of his own pocket. That's one extreme. The other extreme is again, you give it to somebody to build for you. They build you a state-of-the-art senior center, and then they put an office complex that they could charge rent for above it, go to an extreme. That's how you take work.
They would lease it back.
And they would lease back.
Okay.
I don't know how you budget for something like that. Obviously, when you pay for it all yourself.
Okay, so I was on a seminar yesterday and one of the items that came up was the interest that we earned. So you saw in the revenue.
It was amazing.
Right. I
Go
always
you.
thought it was a mistake. But because
What do
oh
we
my
buy?
God, this can't be.
I wrote down, why can't we do that again this year?
So they said that the interest will most likely be stable for this year. But I think that, and I don't know, because I don't have the AFS yet, the annual financial thing. I don't know what the amount that we're gonna regenerate from our appropriations will be yet. But we will have surplus from the interest that we anticipated about 190,000, so we will have interest there. So what they said was to not create a, fund balance will increase from that. Do not create a hole in the budget. If you have a windfall, like this amount of money, that's when you do a one-time.
Next year.
That's when you do a one-time event. You don't use that money to anticipate it into your next budget. Use what you normally regenerate, and then you take the amount that was a big amount, and use it for something like put it towards a bill.
No, no, it's just making.
Hold on, but you don't tie it to a recurring. expense.
Right,
Right.
I to that.
What are our short-term investments held in? And are we buying duration?
We're getting
based
good
on-
interest in the
What's
bank.
good interest?
I think, well, over almost 6%.
Okay, that's good.
5.67,
Okay,
something
good.
like that.
1.2 versus 800,000 was amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna keep going for another year, so you wanna max that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's,
that.
I think that's what
Can we offer,
All
offer
right.
discounts for prepaid taxes? I pay you all my taxes right now. Can
There was a
can you
whole
give me
big thing
3%
on
back?
that.
When you make 300 basis
Yeah.
points on how many millions of dollars, it's a real deal.
So if you had your prepaid taxes, we'd have to make the money up in other
We
investments.
will. If she's making 6-7%,
Well,
you give me 3% off, I'll give you a check.
You're not gonna get that all.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get that. You got that last year and.
But here's the deal, I'll write my check right now, because it's convenient, I don't give a shit.
We did just
No, I mean,
collectively kind of come to a consensus to save 490,000 just a few minutes ago.
No, no, sure.
Because we're not.
I think we're in the game.
We're in the game.
Close.
All right, so, we'll have our next budget meeting Tuesday night before the council meeting.
Yes.
So slight issue, I thought, so I saw that you have closed session to start the meeting also.
So I think it's the clerk's budget, my budget, at 6 o'clock on Tuesday.
Okay.
So we don't think we need more than an hour for
And then
that.
you'll take more.
So Mark Tapican will be here to give an
7 to
update on
7:30.
the labor contract.
7:30.
And then we do another closed afterwards.
Yeah.
Marathon night.
That's right, we're not paying on, still have a few hours.
Let's talk about it.
Good, awesome, guys.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Well done, team. Really well done.